Whether it was pure coincidence or a calculated move, Spencer Hayes and Zach Johnson were dining at the same restaurant. Just before Alex Turner sat down, a message from Arthur Lowe buzzed on his phone. Mr. Turner, initial assessment. The woman's arrival is connected to your two classmates. Yeah, I figured as much, Alex typed back. He didn't need to say more. He knew Arthur Lowe was far more experienced and would anticipate every angle. Alex barely managed a few bites. The thought of Sophia gnawed at him, and he ducked into the restroom to make a call. A video call, of course. He needed to see her face and hear her voice. When Sophia's face appeared on the screen, a knot formed in his chest. Sophie, have you been eating properly? She flinched, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Alex's gaze was too sharp. How could he tell she'd skipped a few meals? Surely, she hadn't lost enough weight for it to be that obvious. But after the initial alarm, a wave of warmth washed over her. He loved her. He cared about her. That's why he noticed the little things. She feigned indignation. Of course I have. If you don't believe me, ask Charles and Mrs. Helen. In the background, Charles and Mrs. Helen remained silent. Miss Sophia, you haven't given us permission to tell the truth, and we certainly don't have the courage to. Alex saw right through it. He sighed, his voice softening. Sophie, when I'm not there, you have to promise me you'll eat well, okay? I know, she said a little too quickly. Am I a 3-year-old? Do you really have to remind me to eat? Mrs. Helen silently retorted. Miss Sophia, in terms of appetite, most 3-year-olds eat more than you. Alex's eyes were fixed on the screen, studying her intently. Did you sleep badly last night? I slept fine. Don't lie. Sophia, who never wore makeup, had dabbed on a bit of foundation to hide the dark circles and the exhaustion that clung to her. But Alex, with his eagle eyes, had seen right through it. Not as well as I usually do, she admitted, her voice dropping to a mumble. Pudge II just isn't as good for sleeping as my husband is. I didn't fall asleep until really late. That wasn't quite right. The truth was, she hadn't slept at all, but she didn't dare tell him that, afraid he'd book the first flight back. Sophia could be ruthless, especially with herself. When she said she'd give Alex 2 days of freedom, she would force herself to see it through, no matter the cost. While he was scrutinizing her, she was doing the same to him. Good. Her husband didn't look like he'd lost any weight, and his complexion was healthy. Sophia was both relieved and a little disappointed. It seemed their separation was affecting her far more than it was affecting him. What she didn't know was that Alex had barely slept a wink either. When Alex returned to the private dining room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. 2 new faces were there, Spencer Hayes and Zach Johnson. Spencer was clutching his face, looking panicked. Brandon Pierce was a storm of fury, held back only by the combined efforts of Simon Shaw and the club president. The air crackled with hostility, heavy and suffocating. Alex was confused. What had happened while he was gone? Simon, his back to the door, didn't see Alex enter. We're not kids anymore, he said, his tone severe as he addressed Spencer and Zach. You need to watch what you say. That's slander. Spencer, blinded by rage, also failed to notice Alex. I'm just telling them the truth, he shot back. What? Are facts off limits now? I'm saying this for your own good. You're his classmates. You see him every day. You need to watch out for him. To put it bluntly, Alex Turner is a snake. The second you let her guard down, he'll bite, and you won't even know what hit you. A slow smile crept across Alex's lips. Perfect. As the man of the hour, he hadn't missed the main event after all. He rapped his knuckles on the doorframe. Every head in the room snapped toward him. The moment Brandon saw him, the explosive anger in his eyes softened into a wounded look. Bro, he mumbled. Alex slid one hand into his pocket and strolled leisurely into the room. He glanced at Spencer and Zach. What are you two doing here? Spencer just snorted. Now that he was convinced Alex had been dumped by his rich girlfriend, Zach had regained some of his old bravado. Alex, we were classmates for 3 years. We just wanted to come over and say hi. But your little brother here just started throwing punches without a word. Don't you think that's a little out of line? Like he's above the law. Bullshit, Brandon roared. You call that saying hi? Alex gestured for Brandon to calm down. The kid who had required 3 guys to hold him back just moments before fell silent. Spencer slammed his hand on the table. Only then did Alex see that half of his face was swollen and his lip was split. He looked pathetic. Alex, in front of your classmates and your brother, tell them yourself. Is it or is it not your fault that Lily Thompson was sentenced to 10 years? Facing the aggressive accusation, Alex simply pulled out a chair, sat down, and offered a calm smile. So you're here to defend Lily Thompson? I'm just stating the facts. Is it true or not? The facts. Alex's smile didn't waver. The fact is, Lily Thompson was greedy and tried to extort a classmate for $1 million. She's in prison because she earned it. What does that have to do with me? Even if she was wrong, Spencer pressed, you could have taught her a lesson and she would have learned. Did you have to be so relentless? Did you have to ruin her entire life? The best 10 years of her youth will be spent in a prison cell. 3 years of friendship, and you just erased it like it was nothing? You're a cold-hearted bastard. Alex's smile widened. Since you're calling me relentless, let me ask you something. My actions toward Lily, at least, were backed by the law. So, Mr. Class President, what law are you citing for being so relentless with me right now? Spencer stammered. I just can't stand how cold and heartless you are. Brandon, young and blunt, spat. Who the hell do you think you are? You can't stand it? Then gouge your own damn eyes out. Alex gave him an appreciative glance before continuing. Thank you for going out of your way to warn my university classmates about me. It really makes me feel the warmth of our 3 years of high school friendship. Simon Shaw cut in. Sorry, all I see are two pathetic losers who can't stand to see someone else succeed, trying to stir up trouble. Exactly. What kind of people are you? Another student added. We were having a perfectly good dinner, and these two psychos had to come over and butt in. Alex, you're classmates with guys like this for 3 years? I feel so bad for you. They're insane. People get what they deserve. We know what kind of person Alex is. We don't need anyone else's opinion. The unanimous defense of Alex left Spencer and Zach utterly humiliated. They tried to slink away, but Brandon wasn't having it. Hey, you think you could just walk out of here? Brandon's voice was uncompromising. Get back here. If you're leaving, you're going to apologize to my brother first. His words seemed to remind Spencer of something. He turned, pointed to his bruised face, and sneered. Hey kid, this little injury you gave me, are we settling this officially or unofficially? Zach chimed in. No matter how you slice it, you're the one who threw the first punch. You injure my friend. We're not just letting this go. If you don't pay up, we're calling the cops. Brandon let out a cold laugh, an aura of intimidation radiating from him that was far beyond his years. He pushed past the others and strode forward. Simon, knowing Brandon's background, worried this could escalate and cause trouble for him and Orion Enterprises. He was about to intervene, but caught Alex's eye and shut his mouth. The kid only listened to Alex. Alex gave Brandon a subtle look. Brandon grunted and stepped back. Alex walked up to Spencer and Zach, a half smile playing on his lips. He's my brother. I'll take responsibility for your face. Go on. How much for your medical bills? Spencer ground his teeth. $5,000. Alex laughed, the double meaning in his words sharp as a knife. Your face isn't worth $5,000. How about this? I'll throw in 2 more punches, and we'll call it even. How does that sound? The words had barely left his mouth when his fist shot forward. Spencer cried out in alarm and stumbled backward. Alex's fist stopped an inch from his nose. He raised an eyebrow. I'm just kidding. Why'd you flinch? Spencer was furious. He lunged forward, grabbing Alex's collar and raising his own fist. But Alex just smiled at him, a predatory glint in his eyes. Spencer suddenly realized something was wrong. In that split second of hesitation, Alex's fist moved faster, connecting squarely with Spencer's face with brutal precision. As Spencer staggered back, clutching his nose, Alex stated calmly, I'd call that self-defense. After all, you were the one who tried to hit me first. Zach scrambled to help Spencer up, an unwelcome thought flashing through his mind. Damn, Alex is actually strong. Hit twice, Spencer was completely enraged. He struggled to his feet, ready to tear Alex apart, but Alex remained perfectly still, unconcerned. Brandon sauntered over. Simon Shaw stepped forward. The club president moved in. One by one, everyone in the room closed in, forming a tight circle around Spencer and Zach. Men and women, all of them staring with hostile eyes. Spencer and Zach froze. A cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Shit, we messed up. They had never imagined that so many people would be willing to stand up for Alex. In high school, Alex had been a quiet bookworm who kept to himself, with Jake Ramirez as his only real friend. Who would have thought that in college his influence would grow so dramatically? What? What do you guys want? Zach's voice trembled. Brandon gave him a look that screamed, Are you an idiot? What do you think? He said gruffly. Simon's face was cold. Apologize to Alex. No apology, you don't leave this room, the club president added. The others joined in. That's right, you have to apologize. You don't get to mess with people from Lakeview. Apologize. Apologize now, or you'll regret it. Under the rising tide of condemnation, Zach's scalp prickled. He was the first to wave the white flag. I'm sorry. We were talking nonsense. We were out of line. We were wrong. Forced by the pressure, Spencer had no choice but to bow his head. We were wrong. What was that? Brandon goaded. I can't hear you. A little louder. Spencer grit his teeth. He was about to explode, but Zach quickly tugged on his shirt. Swallowing his pride, Spencer forced the words out. Alex, I shouldn't have judged you. I shouldn't have tried to turn your classmates against you. Alex gave a disinterested smile. Fine, I heard you. Not that I'm going to forgive you, since I know you don't mean a word of it. Spencer's face turned ashen. Actually, Alex continued, the people you should really be apologizing to are my classmates. You two completely ruined a perfectly good dinner. Someone immediately piped up. It wasn't all bad. We got a free monkey show with our meal. I'd say it was pretty entertaining. A snort of laughter broke the tension. Someone had said the quiet part out loud. Spencer and Zach's faces cycled through shades of green and white. They had never been so thoroughly humiliated in their lives. Alex waved a dismissive hand, his interest completely gone. All right, you can go. As the two of them scurried out of the room, they were met with a wave of unrestrained, mocking laughter from behind. It was piercing, shredding what little was left of their dignity. Damn it, I can't let this go. Spencer slammed his fist against the wall. Zach wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Just drop it, man. Drop it. Spencer's face was dark as he looked at him. Maybe you can, but I can't. He had never been so humiliated in his life. If he let this go, he'd be Alex Turner's bitch forever. Then a thought struck him. He looked at Zach suspiciously. What's with you anyway? You kept backing down. That's not like you. Zach said nothing. It was true. Back when his family got a payout from a property buyout, he'd been arrogant. But after witnessing what happened to Lily Thompson, he'd learned a hard lesson. There were people in the world you just couldn't afford to cross. His nerve had been shattered. Sometimes, Zach thought, being a coward wasn't such a bad thing. Take today, for example. He and Spencer had come together. Spencer got his ass kicked, while he got to walk away with just an apology. Compared to Spencer's misery, a little lost pride was nothing. In fact, he felt a secret thrill of relief, like he'd just dodged a bullet. But smiling in Spencer's face probably wasn't a good idea, so he did his best to suppress it. Back in the dining room, Brandon looked at Alex with pure admiration. Bro, that punch was epic. You think so? Alex replied. He had impressed not only everyone in the room, but someone else far away. That night, Sophia actually ate a decent meal, temporarily silencing Mrs. Helen's urge to report back to Alex. The truth was she still had no appetite, but she was terrified of losing weight and having to explain it to her husband, so she forced herself to eat. She stared at the food on the table, unable to understand. It was the exact same food, but with him, it was a feast. Without him, it tasted like ash. Why? After forcing down a bowl of rice, Sophia picked up her phone. In the latest security report, she read all about how Alex's high school classmates had tried to antagonize him, how he'd shut them down with a single move, and how everyone else had rushed to his defense. First Brandon, then Simon, then the club president, and all the other members. They had all stood up for him. Sophia felt a surge of pride. My husband is so well-liked. But right after the pride came a flicker of panic. My husband won't be lonely without me. Her grip on the phone tightened. His life wouldn't be any less bright if she weren't in it. With or without her, he was still a beacon of light. If he wasn't shining on her, he could just as easily shine on someone else. A sharp pain lanced through her heart. She shot up from her chair. Hearing the noise, Charles came in from outside. Miss Sophia, is there something you need? The darkness in her eyes was quickly replaced by a vacant look. She sank back in her seat, dazed. What had she been about to do? She had been about to fly to that city, tonight, and bring her husband back. Sophia lowered her gaze, hiding the turmoil within. After a moment of thought, she said, I don't like being indebted to strangers, Charles. Please make the arrangements. Charles bowed slightly. Yes, Miss Sophia. A prize drawing? Inside the private room, everyone exchanged confused glances. The waitress patiently explained that it was the restaurant owner's birthday, and he was holding a special lottery to celebrate. There was a consolation prize, third, second, first, and a grand prize. Everyone was guaranteed to win something. Even the unluckiest person would walk away with the consolation prize, a cute, fluffy stuffed animal. The waitress described the prizes, working her way up from the bottom. When she announced that the grand prize was $100,000, everyone shared a knowing smile. It was obviously a gimmick. The owner could have said the prize was $1 million. It didn't matter. No one was actually going to win it. Someone joked, $100,000 is a lot of money. If we actually won, who would it belong to? That's easy. Another person replied. We just split it. They laughed and joked, none of them taking it seriously. But Alex, who had been quiet for most of the evening, sensed something unusual was afoot. To ensure fairness, the drawing was held in the main lobby. It wasn't one ticket per person, but one per table. A couple got one ticket. A group of a dozen got one ticket. There was only one of each of the major prizes. The consolation prize, however, was for everyone. The stuffed animals were cheap, and it was a nice gesture to make the customers happy. The drawing was underway, and soon, customers were happily returning to their tables with fluffy toys. As fate would have it, Spencer and Zach were still there. Before they could leave, a waitress asked if they wanted to participate. Figuring they had nothing to lose, they drew a ticket. Unsurprisingly, they won the consolation prize. Seeing their old rivals again brought a fresh wave of anger. Alex glanced at them, then asked his group, "Who's feeling lucky?" "You should go, Alex. You represent all of us." "Yeah, it's just going to be a stuffed animal anyway. It doesn't matter who draws." Alex smiled, and his gaze fell on Brandon. "Let's have a youngest do it. You go." "All right," Brandon said, hopping to his feet excitedly. He bounded over to the prize box. The moment his hand went inside, a strange premonition hit Alex. "We're going to win the grand prize." Brandon pulled his hand out, holding a scratch-off card. Everyone crowded around. They all knew it would be a consolation prize, but they couldn't help but build a little suspense. Brandon cleared his throat. "Okay, guys, I'm scratching it." Most people scratch from left to right. Brandon, ever the nonconformist, went from right to left. The first word to appear was prize. "Haha, see that? I want a prize." Brandon cheered, full of childish glee. Alex shook his head, amused. Even the worst luck guaranteed a prize. Brandon kept scratching, chanting under his breath, "Grand prize, grand prize, grand." Someone gasped. Another person's expression turned strange. Brandon just stared at the card in his hand, frozen like a statue. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He strode over. Before he could get close enough to see, the restaurant manager's excited voice boomed through the lobby. "The grand prize. Oh my God, you are all so lucky. You've won the grand prize." Alex looked down, suppressing the smile that was fighting its way to his lips. When he looked up again, his expression was perfectly composed. "The grand prize? Seriously? No way. Did they really put a grand prize in there? What was the grand prize again?" $100,000. A buzz of conversation filled the room as everyone surged forward, craning their necks to see the legendary winning ticket. Spencer and Zach, who had just stepped outside, looked at each other in disbelief. How is this possible? Alex Turner's group had won the grand prize. Seeing Alex win $100,000 was 100 times more painful than losing $1 billion themselves. Their loss was hypothetical. Alex's win was real. Zach hesitated. "Spencer, can you hold on for a minute? I'm going to go check it out." The initial sting of the punches had faded, and Spencer felt well enough to skip the hospital. He ground his teeth. "I'm going with you." They went back inside. The waitress was holding up the winning card, which looked like a $100 bill, her face flushed with excitement. "The grand prize. This handsome young man has drawn our restaurant's top prize." Brandon's head was spinning. He looked dazed, but in a cute, goofy way that suited his age. He didn't need the money. $100,000 probably wouldn't even cover his monthly allowance. But he had won this with his own luck. The odds had to be lower than winning the lottery. Was he the chosen one? The words "grand prize" were printed clearly on card. Spencer and Zach's faces were as grim as if they'd just lost a parent. Alex's group had actually won. Damn it. Was there any justice in the world? Over on their side, the group had erupted in celebration. They were tossing Brandon into the air. "Did we really win the grand prize?" Simon asked, still in shock. Alex nodded with a smile. "We did." "This feels like a dream," Simon murmured. "Am I dreaming?" "Of course not," Alex laughed. "Including Brandon, there are 20 of us. $100,000 split 20 ways is $5,000 each. Not bad. This trip really paid off." After the initial excitement wore off, the group began to doubt whether the restaurant would actually honor the prize. But to their astonishment, the restaurant paid up immediately. As agreed, they split the $100,000 prize. When the $5,000 landed in each of their bank accounts, it still felt completely surreal. Alex texted Sophia, sharing the story as if it were a bizarre stroke of luck, pretending he had no idea his dear wife had arranged the whole thing. Just one more night, he thought. I can go back tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow night, I can hold my wife again. It's getting late. Go get ready for bed. Hey, hey, hey. Brandon. Hey, hey. Alex sighed. Great. Brandon had lost his mind. Did the kid really think he was some chosen one with explosive good luck? If he found out the truth, would he go crazy? Better to just let him believe it. Brandon stared at his right hand with a dopey grin. Bro, I don't think I'm going to shower tonight. Alex climbed into bed. Okay, suit yourself. A few moments later. Nope, I can't. I think I stink. Brandon obediently went to the bathroom. As usual, Alex said goodnight to Sophia, promising to meet her in his dreams. He closed his eyes, but his mind was racing. Susan Thompson, Spencer Hayes, Zach Johnson. He had no intention of letting these people who hated him without reason get away with it. But maybe he wouldn't have to lift a finger. Sophia was tracking his every move. She surely knew about them by now. He would leave it to her. Alex didn't dare try to be clever again. Sophia was still holding a grudge about the time he used Arthur Lowe without her permission. He had always known that revealing his own capabilities would make her feel insecure. The irony was, his only reason for wanting to become powerful was to protect her and his family. That night was another one where he found himself envying his roommate's ability to sleep soundly. Sophia's situation was even worse. She couldn't sleep. No matter what she did, she couldn't sleep. The longing for him wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud. Lying in bed felt like lying in a sealed coffin, surrounded by a dead, oppressive silence. Hutch II had been banished from the bed. She felt cold, a chill that went straight to her bones. Am I really just a walking corpse without him? She thought mockingly. The cold was unbearable. She turned off the air conditioning, but it didn't help. She was still freezing, so she curled into a ball, but that didn't help either. She yearned for the warmth of Alex's embrace, for his smile, his voice, for everything about him. Fine. The experiment hadn't even reached its designated end date, but she already knew with absolute clarity. She couldn't live without Alex Turner. She was a fish out of water, and she would die if she stayed away for 2 days. She didn't want to pretend anymore. A sudden wave of self-pity washed over her. Her life had been hard enough. Why was she inventing new ways to suffer? After a day and a night of torturing herself, Sophia finally had an epiphany. She didn't even know how long she had left to live. Why worry so much about the future? All she wanted was the now. All she wanted was Alex. She stumbled out of bed, changed her clothes with trembling hands, and summoned Charles. Her face was frighteningly pale, her forehead slick with cold sweat, but her smile held a newfound sense of enlightened release. Charles, I'm going to find Alex. Charles nodded immediately and rushed to make the arrangements. Just before dawn, as Alex finally succumbed to his own exhaustion and drifted into a restless sleep, Sophia was dozing off in a helicopter. She needed to see him as fast as possible. Driving would take at least 7 or 8 hours. A helicopter was the only option. Charles, sitting beside her, felt a pang of anxiety. Miss Sophia looked terrible. She was obviously sick. She should be going to a hospital, not flying to another city to find Alex. But he knew, deep down, that Alex was a better cure than any doctor. With him by her side, she would recover quickly. In his hazy sleep, Alex was jolted awake by a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread. He sat up, rubbing his temples, and glanced cautiously at the other bed. Brandon was sprawled on his stomach, fast asleep. Just then, his phone screen lit up. Alex read the message and froze. He blinked, thinking he must have misread it. He looked again, then immediately threw on his shoes and rushed out the door. The moment he stepped outside, a figure lunged at him. The unnatural, burning heat radiating from her body instantly dispelled the joyful surprise surging through him. "You're sick," he said in a low voice. "No, I'm not," Sophia mumbled into his chest. "I'm perfectly healthy." Alex was speechless. Her body felt like a baked potato, and she had the nerve to say she was healthy? She was either being stubborn or the fever had already cooked her brain. A flicker of resentment stirred in him. Why hadn't Charles and the others taken her to a hospital? Why did they let her do whatever she wanted? What if the fever caused permanent damage? But then he caught himself. It wasn't their fault. Sophia's word was law. No matter how worried they were, they couldn't overrule her. Regret washed over him. If he hadn't left her side, he would have noticed something was wrong immediately. She listened to him, at least some of the time. If he'd been there, she wouldn't have gotten this sick. He swept her up into his arms and hurried toward the car parked outside the B&B. "It's okay. We're going to hospital." "No, I just need you to hold me. Don't be difficult. We have to go to the hospital." Sophia fell silent. Charles was waiting by the car. "Mr. Turner, the medical team is on standby." Alex nodded, placing Sophia gently in the car. An image of her fate in his past life flashed through his mind, and a primal fear made his heart tremble. Not even 2 days, and she had already collapsed. Without him, she really would fall apart. Alex held her tighter. Her breathing was heavy, her cheeks flushed an unhealthy red. He touched her forehead. It was so hot it terrified him. Sophia's eyes fluttered open. She actually managed a weak smile. "Don't worry, husband. I'm really okay." He was so frustrated he could scream. "From now on, you are not allowed to speak," he said, his voice sharp. "You're so mean," she whispered back weakly. Her voice, so soft and tired, filled him with guilt. "I'm sorry. I get a little worked up when I'm worried. You have a big heart. Sophie, you won't hold it against me, right?" She hummed in agreement, her eyes half open, fixed on his face. Now that she finally had her husband back, she had to get her fill of looking at him. No, that wasn't right. She could never get enough. "If you feel sick, try to sleep." Sophia stubbornly shook her head. They arrived at the hospital quickly. Sophia had a dedicated medical team back in Seattle. Since her illness and departure had been so sudden, Charles had contacted a hospital here before they even took off. A team of the best local doctors was now waiting for them. They immediately drew her blood for tests. Everyone gets sick and needs a shot at some point in their lives. But as Alex watched the gentle nurse tie a rubber band around Sophia's delicate arm, swab the vein with cotton, and slide the needle in, a nerve in his own body twitched in sympathy. It felt like the needle was piercing his own skin, drawing his own blood. He wished it was him. He would gladly be sick for her, take the shots, swallow the medicine. But you couldn't substitute for someone in this. The final diagnosis came back. She had the nasty strain of flu that was sweeping the country. The doctors immediately started her on at 4. The hospital provided a private luxury suite. Sophia lay on the bed, her free hand clutching Alex's. A nurse was monitoring the 4 drip, but Alex refused to leave her side, watching intently until the last drop had been administered. As the medicine took effect and her fever slowly began to break, Alex finally let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The sun was rising outside. He climbed onto the bed, wrapped his arms around her, and fell into a deep, exhausted sleep. Morning came. Brandon stretched comfortably, wiping a bit of drool from the corner of his mouth. "Haha, bro, you'll never guess what I dreamed about last night." The next second, he looked at the empty bed across from him and muttered to himself, "Huh? Why is he up so early today?" Brandon checked the bathroom. Empty. He walked out of the room and ran into the club president. "Hey, have you seen my brother?" After asking everyone, Brandon started to question reality. "Where did my brother go?" Simon Shaw, who had just arrived from his hotel, reminded him, "Call him." Brandon quickly dialed Alex's number, only for the ringtone to start blaring from Alex's own bed. He'd left without his phone. Brandon was on the verge of tears. "What do I do? I lost my brother. If Sophie finds out, she'll skin me alive. But that's not important. The important thing is, where did he go?" "Don't worry too much," someone said. "He's an adult. I'm sure he's fine. Alex is responsible. He'll probably be back soon." But after half an hour, there was still no sign of Alex. Now, even the people who had been telling Brandon to calm down were starting to get anxious. Just as they were about to launch a full-scale search party, Simon's phone rang. After a brief conversation, he turned to the group with a relieved expression. "Everyone relax. Alex is at the hospital. He wants us to continue with the plan. He can't make it, and he told me to apologize to all of you." His announcement only made everyone more worried. Brandon was practically jumping up and down. "My brother's at the hospital? Which hospital? Why is he at the hospital? He was fine last night. What happened?" Simon sighed. It was his fault for not being clearer. "All right, it's not Alex who's sick. It's his girlfriend. She has a fever." Now everyone was even more confused. Brandon stared at Simon. "Simon, are you feeling okay? Isn't Sophie in Seattle?" The question stumped Simon, too. That was right. Alex's girlfriend was in Seattle. She hadn't come on the trip. What was going on? They'd only find out when they saw Alex. Brandon lost all interest in the day's activities. He had only come for Alex in the first place. If Alex wasn't going, why should he? He was going to the hospital to visit his sick sister-in-law. At a critical moment like this, whether it was out of courtesy or a desire to score points, he couldn't be absent. Simon looked like he wanted to say something. "Simon," Brandon said, "if you have something to say, just say it." "I think it's probably best if you don't go," Simon advised. "Why? I doubt they'd welcome a third wheel." Simon knew that when Alex and his girlfriend were together, it was best to leave them alone. Brandon felt as if his young heart had just taken a direct hit. "Simon, why did you have to be so blunt?" Simon was exasperated. "Weren't you the one who told me to just say it?" It was hard to believe, but the best, most restful sleep Alex and Sophia had gotten in days was in a hospital. The single bed was small. After her 4 was done, with no doctors or nurses to disturb them, they slept from morning until afternoon, nearly until the end of time. When she woke up, the sky outside was already cloaked in twilight. Alex had woken up first. He studied her face, gently stroking her cheek. "You've lost weight." Sophia didn't even open her eyes. "No, I haven't," she mumbled. "Oh, she was awake too." "You have," Alex insisted, refusing to be dismissed. "You definitely haven't been eating properly." At the mention of food, Sophia's stomach let out a loud grumble. Alex's was just as bad. Charles was prepared. A fragrant meal, suitable for a patient, quickly appeared in the private room. Ignoring his own hunger, Alex scooped up a spoonful of white rice porridge, blew on it until it was cool, and carefully brought it to Sophia's lips. It reminded him of a time in his past life when Sophia had fed him just like this. Not because he was sick, but because his hands and feet had been chained, and he couldn't move. Sophia had insisted on feeding him herself. The feelings he'd had then, best not to dwell on it. The past was the past. This life was what mattered. After they had eaten their fill, Charles came in to clear everything away. These past 2 days had made one thing crystal clear to him. If Miss Sophia and Mr. Turner couldn't be locked together for life, neither of them would survive. They were completely dependent on each other. When she was sick, his own complexion had worsened. Please, no more drama, Charles thought. Just stay together. It's not like the family can't afford it. Whether it was because the fever had broken or because Alex was back by her side, Sophia's color and appetite had both returned. She ate until she was full and content, then snuggled up against Alex, her arm linked with his. I'm sorry, husband. I made you miss today's activity. She was apologizing, but there wasn't an ounce of sincerity in her voice. What activity could possibly be more important than her? That's right. Nothing could be more important than her. Alex caressed her face. Her chin was definitely sharper, and she still claimed she hadn't lost weight. He was so frustrated. What activity is more important than you? Alex feigned annoyance, then pulled her into a tight embrace. Sophie, he said, his voice muffled, I don't ever want to go to another event again. I'm not going anywhere, or you come with me. But if it's just me, I'm not going. Nestled in Alex's arms, Sophia stirred half-heartedly. Realizing what she was doing, Alex pulled out a soft tissue and gently wiped her mouth. Satisfied, she buried her face in his chest, taking a deep breath of his unique, sun-drenched scent. In that moment, she felt truly alive again. Alex complained, a mix of truth and theatrics in his voice. Can't you ever let me have a moment's peace, you little troublemaker? I kept wondering why I felt so unsettled, and it turns out you weren't taking care of yourself. His chest vibrated as he spoke. Sophia couldn't help but smile, nuzzling against him playfully. Her heart was blooming with joy. So, her absence had been hard on him too? Good. That was exactly as it should be. She couldn't live without him, and he had to be just as unable to live without her. The fact that Sophia had gotten sick while Alex was away had serious consequences. So serious, in fact, that Alex became a tyrant, forbidding her from even walking. She had to stay in bed and rest. If she absolutely had to get up, he insisted on carrying her. And every time he did, he'd grumble, "You're obviously lighter, and you still have the nerve to say you haven't lost weight." "It's not that I'm thinner," she'd reply with a playful grin. "It's that my husband has gotten stronger." Compliments from Sophia were a rare commodity, reserved almost exclusively for Alex. Even though he knew she was often just teasing him to make him happy, her words never failed to make his heart flutter. This time, however, he saw it for what it was, a diversion. He wasn't falling for it. She wrapped her arms around his neck, her slender legs swinging playfully in the air. She pouted, her voice taking on a cute, pleading tone. "Husband, you're so mean. You're scaring me." Alex melted. Who could possibly resist that? Whatever frustration he felt vanished in a thin air. Sophia puckered her lips and closed her eyes. Alex, remembering how she'd teased him before, considered giving her a taste of her own medicine. But the thought barely lasted a second before he dismissed it. He couldn't bring himself to do it. He leaned in, just about to taste the sweetness of her lips when she suddenly pulled away. Alex blinked in stunned silence, feeling utterly wronged. "Seriously? Using the same trick on me twice in a row? Isn't that a little cruel?" "I'm sorry, husband. I forgot," she said apologetically. "I'm sick. It's better if we keep our distance. I don't want to get you sick." The excuse was reasonable enough. But even so, if he didn't enact some small punishment, how could he maintain his authority as a husband? Alex nodded gravely. "You're right. If I get sick too, we'll take care of you. In that case, we should sleep in separate beds tonight." "No," she protested immediately. The torment of insomnia was not something she wanted to experience again. Without Alex by her side, she simply couldn't sleep. Seeing her panic, Alex broke into a triumphant grin and carried her out of the hospital room. Sophia buried her face in his neck. The four had done its job. The fever was gone. Her head no longer ached. She felt fantastic, ready to take on the world. He didn't need to be so overprotective. If anyone saw them, they'd think she was on her deathbed. Still, being doted on like this felt incredible. She had no intention of struggling. She wanted to drown in his affection. Fearing for her health, Alex had wanted to stay at the hospital another day. But Sophia insisted she was fine, and he couldn't win the argument. They headed home that same day. At the same time, the other club members were also beginning their journey back. Sophia had booked first-class tickets for everyone who had attended the trip, including Simon Shaw, who was flying directly to his hometown to pick up his grandfather instead of returning to Seattle with him. Everyone except Brandon was stunned by her generosity. They didn't understand that. In her mind, they had earned it. This was her way of thanking them for defending Alex. She had always preferred the simplest, most direct methods of showing gratitude. Simon, unable to refuse, accepted graciously. With the unexpected $50,000 in his account and sitting in first class for the first time in his life, he felt a new sense of confidence about bringing his grandfather back with him. Once his grandfather was settled, he could finally dedicate himself fully to his studies and his career. "Sophie, are you feeling better?" Brandon asked with concern in the airport lounge. Sophia gave a faint smile and a soft Brandon was confused. Was he imagining things? It seemed like in just 2 days, Sophia had become much gentler. It wasn't his imagination. Sophia had decided that as long as he wasn't trying to steal her husband, she could afford to be a little kinder to him. After the previous night, she found the kid much less annoying. Seeing her in a good mood, Brandon seized the opportunity to strengthen their bond. His mouth started running, saying all the things he knew she wanted to hear. "Sophie, I really don't think you should let my brother go on these overnight trips anymore." "Why is that?" Sophia asked, intrigued. Although Alex was under her surveillance, even when he was away, she couldn't monitor his every move. She didn't know how well he slept, what he and Brandon talked about, or anything that happened behind a closed door. Brandon glanced at Alex and sighed dramatically. Bro couldn't sleep. He was up in the middle of the night, looking at his phone. "Scared the crap out of me. I thought the room was haunted." Alex was speechless. So this was the real Brandon Pierce. To get on Sophia's good side, the proud young master was willing to air his own embarrassing stories. Incredible. Since the door was open, Alex walked through it. He recounted the story of Brandon waking up and mistaking him for a ghost. Sophia's reaction was not what they expected. She frowned at Brandon, her tone disapproving. "Have you ever seen a ghost as handsome as my husband?" "You're right, Sophie," Brandon said meekly. "My mistake. I'll reflect on my poor judgment." The truth was, handsome or ugly, he'd never seen a ghost in his life. Alex held the hand that had received the 4, examining it closely. The nurse had been skilled, leaving no bruises. The pinprick was almost invisible. Sophia feigned ignorance. "Husband, what were you looking at on your phone in the middle of the night?" Brandon jumped in to answer. "I asked him if he couldn't sleep because he was missing you, and he said yes." He pressed on. "Sophie, after these past 2 days, I can tell you for sure, my brother is completely devoted to you. Like he can't live without you." With every word Brandon spoke, the smile on Sophia's face grew wider. Besides mistaking her husband for a ghost, she loved everything the kid was saying today. Sophie's smile just kept getting wider. The clever young Brandon knew his flattery had hit the mark. Yes, but then he reconsidered. It wasn't flattery if it was the truth, right? The next time he wanted to hang out with Alex, maybe Sophie wouldn't set a vicious dog on him. Probably not, right? Sophia turned to Alex, her eyes sparkling, clearly in high spirits. "Is that true, husband? You were so busy missing me you couldn't sleep?" Alex admitted it freely. Letting her know how much he cared wasn't something to be ashamed of. Why deny it? Brandon made a silent tisk sound. This was serious. His brother Alex was completely and utterly whipped, a slave to his wife for life. He'd never escape her grasp. He stuck a glance at them and rubbed his arms. The way Alex and Sophie were gazing at each other, completely lost in their own world, was giving him goosebumps. He was a third wheel with the wattage of a searchlight. Brandon knew how to read a room. The best thing to do now was shut up and pretend to be invisible. He looked down at his phone, but his mind was still racing. Wait, he had just remembered something important. How did Sophie suddenly appear in the city where they were having their trip? Had she been there all along? No, that couldn't be right. If she had been, there's no way Alex would have been so calm, going out with everyone, eating, sleeping. He would have been with her. There was only one other explanation. Sophie had been sick, and she had traveled through the night just to end their separation a little sooner. Wow, Alex was a wife slave, and Sophie was a husband slave. It was true what they said. Birds of a feather flocked together. They were both so possessive. They were finally home. Though they had only been gone for 2 days, returning to the mansion felt like coming back after a lifetime. It was strange to think that in his past life, he had dreamed of nothing but escaping this place. Now, After just 2 days away, he couldn't wait to return. Sophia was still a patient. Even though she insisted she was fully recovered, Alex stubbornly carried her upstairs and even helped her with her bath. 2 days apart had brought out a mischievous streak in her. Perhaps knowing he wouldn't do anything while she was sick, her hands roamed restlessly, lighting little fires everywhere. Alex was so frustrated he could have spit blood. Or rather, he was so pent up he could have. He grabbed her mischievous little hands, his gaze deep and amused. "Sophie, if you don't behave, I'm sleeping in the room next door." "You wouldn't dare," she snapped back, but she did quiet down. After her bath, Alex wrapped her in a large white towel, carried her out, and set her down by the bed. He took out the hairdryer and began to dry her hair. As his fingers moved through her hair, the warm air enveloped her scalp, and Sophia closed her eyes in comfort. Her long, pale legs dangled, swinging back and forth in pure bliss. The moment her hair was dry, she latched onto him, demanding to be held. Alex heartlessly pushed her away. Under her disgruntled gaze, he walked over, poured a glass of water, and returned with her evening medicine in his palm. Sophia frowned. She hated taking medicine. But then her expression softened. She should at least give her husband some face. After watching her take the pills, Alex put everything away. Just as Sophia was expecting him to hold her, he sat cross-legged on the bed and gave her a serious look. Sophia blinked. Her husband's solemn expression made her subconsciously rack her brain for what she might have done wrong. Her freshly dried hair was fluffy and fell in soft waves around her shoulders, making her small, delicate face seem even paler and more exquisite. She was more captivating than a porcelain doll crafted by the most skilled master. She looked at him innocently, her long lashes fluttering. "What is it, husband?" He remained unmoved. "Is there something you want to tell me?" Sophia thought hard, then put on an exaggerated expression. "Husband, I missed you to death." Alex deadpanned. "That's not it." Her face immediately fell. "Husband, is it wrong for me to miss you? You missed me too, didn't you?" Who could resist Sophia when she was being cute, playful, and completely unreasonable? Fortunately, she only ever acted this way with him. Alex sighed. Since this little troublemaker was hoping to bluff her way through, he had to show her that it wouldn't work. He got straight to the point. "Why did you want me to go on the club trip?" Sophia looked down, fiddling with a strand of her hair. "I told you from the beginning, so you could experience a normal college life." "You're lying," he said flatly. "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." They stared at each other, two adults acting more childish than 3-year-olds. Suddenly, Alex's energy seemed to drain away. He flopped back onto the bed. "Sometimes I feel like such a failure." His dejected words stunned Sophia. She crawled over to him and saw that he had covered his eyes with his arm, as if shutting out the world. A sense of panic rose in her. She pulled his arm away. "Husband, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Just having a moment of existential crisis." "I forbid you from putting yourself down. You're better than everyone else." Alex lay on the bed he had longed for, looking at the girl he loved most, but his eyes were filled with confusion. "How am I better? I can't even give you the sense of security you need. I'm not good at all." Sophia froze. So, he had seen through her little scheme. Alex reached out and cupped her face. "Sophie, you don't trust me. That hurts." He had realized something was off with her and had been trying to figure out. The first night, he hadn't thought too much about it. The second night, he understood. I don't. I just don't trust myself." Since he had brought it up, there was no point in hiding it anymore. Sophia poured out all her fears and anxieties. Alex propped himself up on his elbows. "Sophie, I can swear to you, no matter what happens in the future, I will never leave you. If you still can't believe me, then just lock me up. Chain me to your side, okay?" "Are you serious?" Sophia asked abruptly. Alex wasn't sure which part she was referring to. She sat up, her expression unreadable. "Then I'll take you at your word." Before Alex could react, she got off the bed and walked out of the room, leaving him utterly confused. When she returned, his pupils contracted at the sight of what was in her hands. He forgot how to breathe. Sophia saw his reaction and smiled dangerously. "Husband, now that I'm calling your bluff, are you scared?" In her hands was a set of chains. They were identical to the ones that had bound him in his past life. "Be good, husband." As the metal chains clicked shut around his wrists and ankles, Alex's mind went blank. The humiliating memories of his past life flooded back. But facing the same girl who had stolen his freedom, his feelings were completely different. There was no hatred. Besides, he had just invited her to lock him up. Was this what they called getting what you asked for? But he couldn't figure out. Why had she prepared these chains? If he wasn't mistaken, she must have had them ready for a while, just in case he ever misbehaved. Sophia placed her hands on his shoulders and, with almost no effort, pushed him down onto the soft bed. The metal chains clinked together with his movement. In his past life, that sound had been a source of shame and fury, slowly chipping away at his dignity. But people change. Alex lay back, almost looking comfortable. Sophia propped herself up on her hands on either side of his head, looking down at him. Her long, soft hair cascaded down, tickling his face. In that moment, she was a queen, toying with the loyal subject who had surrendered at her feet. "Are you scared?" she whispered, her voice light and seductive. Alex's eyes filled with a deep, fond smile. "Why would I be scared? I'm enjoying this." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "Oh, really? But people change. When you become more powerful and ambitious, you might not want to stay by my side anymore. Will you really let me keep you chained up for the rest of your life?" Alex leaned back into surrender. "Sophie, you really know how to hurt me. Since you refuse to trust me, why don't you just chain me up for a lifetime and see for yourself?" As soon as he finished speaking, her soft body pressed against his. She cradled his face, her voice full of mock grievance. "You only act so tough because you know I could never bring myself to actually hurt you, don't you?" Alex closed his eyes and tilted his head up expectantly, all but writing "kiss me" now on his forehead. Sophia stared at his thin lips, fighting the temptation of this male siren with every ounce of her self-control. She quickly sat up, fumbling to unlock the chains. "I'm a walking virus right now," she declared again. "I could get you sick." Suddenly, the world turned upside down. Alex's lips crashed down on hers, demanding and possessive. She struggled for a moment. "You idiot. I'm serious. I'll get you sick." After a few fierce kisses, he pulled back slightly, meeting her reproachful gaze with a righteous declaration. "Wife, we must share our fortunes and our hardships." She laughed in exasperation, raising a hand as if to hit him, then letting it fall limply. "You're ridiculous. Who wants to share hardships when it comes to being sick?" She should have left him locked up a little longer. He was completely disobedient. Alex didn't go too far. He held her with one arm and tossed the chains onto the floor with the other, not wanting them to poke her during the night. He then pulled her close, settling them on their sides and covering them with the light silk comforter. He kissed her forehead. "Sleep." With her in his arms, breathing in her unique scent, Alex felt a profound sense of peace. He felt whole again. "Sophia, try to get up. Get up and take some preventative medicine. You're definitely going to get sick." Alex held her tight, patting her back soothingly. "No, I won't. I'm strong. You can ask my parents. I rarely get sick. You think a little virus can take me down?" "Don't be so arrogant," she huffed. "What if you do get sick?" "Impossible. I won't." She was still annoyed, but she craved his embrace too much. Besides, she was still sick, and whether it was exhaustion or the virus regrouping for another attack, her head was starting to feel heavy again. Her body felt weak. She snuggled comfortably in his arms, murmured a soft goodnight, "Husband," and fell into a deep sleep. Alex didn't dare to close his eyes that night. He remained alert, tasked with the heavy responsibility of caring for a sick person. He constantly monitored her, listening for any change in her breathing. Fortunately, Sophia was a model patient, sleeping soundly through the night, her temperature remaining stable. It was probably from pulling an all-nighter. Alex would never admit it was because he'd ignored her warnings and kissed her. His throat felt a little scratchy. No way. Alex was horrified. His face was starting to ache. He worked out every day. He was strong as an ox. A tiny virus wouldn't dare defeat him. The thought scared him so much that he got up and chugged a full glass of water. When Sophia emerged from the bathroom, he quickly put the glass down and casually suggested she sleep a little longer. It was still early. Fearing she wouldn't go back to sleep without him there to hold her, he got back into bed, deciding to postpone his morning workouts until she was better. This time, having been awake most of the night, Alex fell into a deep sleep. Sophia, on the other hand, had slept wonderfully. Her cold symptoms had greatly improved, and she was now wide awake and full of energy. Her husband was truly her power source. As long as she was by his side, she could recover from anything. Conversely, even if she started out healthy, she would wither without his light and eventually die. Yes, Sophia realized with more clarity than ever before. Without Alex, she would die. "Husband, did you have a good time with your classmates?" she whispered. Alex answered with a long, steady breath. Sophia blinked, surprised. She looked up and saw his eyes were closed, his face peaceful in sleep. Her brow furrowed. She had been greedy for his embrace, so she had agreed to sleep a little longer, assuming it would involve more sleepy cuddling. Only now did she realize that he had probably stayed up all night for her. She felt a pang of guilt. She had slept so comfortably, while her husband had suffered. It was truly the worst time for her to get sick. He had already spent 2 sleepless nights away from her, and now he had spent another one looking after her. He was going to run himself into the ground. Carefully, Sophia slipped out of his embrace and wrapped her arms around him instead, holding him just as he held her every night. In his sleep, Alex automatically draped his arm over her waist, burying his face in her chest with a contented, animal-like murmur. Sophia ran her fingers through his short hair, her cheek pressed against his, her soft lips brushing against his skin. Her heart melted into a puddle. Sleep, sleep, my dearest husband. If he hadn't been woken up by a full bladder, Alex could have slept in Sophia's soft, fragrant arms until the end of time. In the bathroom, Alex braced himself against the sink, a look of utter despair on his face. He was sure of it now. He had been infected. Karma had come for him, and it had come quickly. Only one thought consumed him. Sophia cannot find out. Absolutely not. First of all, getting a cold or a fever was a normal part of life. As a strong young man, Alex wasn't worried about a minor bug. Secondly, being embarrassed in front of Sophia was a minor concern. She would never laugh at him. In fact, she would be incredibly worried and would dote on him just as he had on her. But what truly troubled him was the certainty that, having learned this lesson, Sophia would never let him be so reckless again. That was the real problem. He needed to drink more water, and maybe sneak some medicine when he had the chance. He had to suppress this virus and fast. Alex splashed some water on his face, dried it, and walked out of the bathroom. Sophia was already dressed in a white lace dress with lantern sleeves. Her wavy hair was loose around her shoulders, framing her exquisite features and pale skin. She looked like a delicate porcelain doll. Sophia rarely wore dresses. She was beautiful, with a slender figure, so she looked good in anything. Lifting the hem of her skirt, she twirled gracefully. The lace skirt bloomed like a pure white jasmine flower before his eyes, elegant and vibrant. Alex stopped in his tracks, his eyes wide with unconcealed admiration. She stopped spinning, the skirt settling around her. She smiled at him. "Husband, do I look nice?" Alex nodded. "Beautiful. What's beautiful?" she pressed. Alex knew the correct answer. "My Sophie, of course." Sophia's smile widened. She was very pleased with his response, but she decided to tease him anyway. "So, the dress isn't nice?" "Husband, I just bought this. Are you questioning my taste?" "Of course not. But even the most beautiful clothes need a charming owner to make them shine. Sophie, you're the one who makes it special." She shot him a sideways glance. "My, you're getting quite the silver tongue. I think I'll have to punish you to make sure you don't use that sweet talk on other girls." "All right, Sophie, how do you plan to punish me?" Sophia opened her arms. It was a clear invitation for a hug. Alex chuckled to himself. Was this a punishment or a reward? He walked over, placed his hands on her slender waist, and effortlessly lifted her into his arms. He nuzzled her delicate earlobe, making her giggle and squirm away. "Sophie, how are you feeling today? You've already asked me that several times since I woke up." Alex was confused. Had he? Oh, right. He probably had. The first thing he'd said after "Good morning, wife" was to ask if she felt better, even though her rosy complexion was proof enough that she had improved significantly. Sophia's personal medical team was already waiting downstairs. Before they went down, she disappeared into the walk-in closet. This bedroom had originally been for him, but now, from the closet to the bathroom, every corner was filled with traces of her. A few moments later, she emerged, having swapped the ethereal lace dress for her usual clothes. Alex was puzzled. The dress was so beautiful. "Why did you change?" "My most beautiful self is reserved for my husband's eyes only," she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Alex was speechless. This girl always managed to say the most heart-stoppingly romantic things in the most casual, arrogant tone. "That's not right, Sophie. You're so beautiful. You look good in anything. You could wear a potato sack and still captivate everyone. It's not about being your most beautiful. It's about being even more beautiful." Having laid the flattery on thick, Alex feigned a troubled expression. "If I were a jealous man, and I didn't want anyone else to see how beautiful you are, I guess the only solution would be to lock you up so no one else could ever see you." As he said it, an image flashed through his mind. A dimly lit room. Sophia's slender limbs chained with gleaming metal. Her hair disheveled as she sat on a bed with white sheets. The strap of her white lace nightgown slipping off her shoulder, revealing delicate skin and an alluring collarbone. She lifts her head, her beautiful face a mask of shattered pride. She looks like a little white rabbit caught in a wolf's trap, but she clings to her last shred of dignity, staring at him with a mixture of despair and fury. Alex Turner, she would hiss. Who do you think you are? How would you do this to me? In his fantasy, Alex had accidentally projected his own past onto Sophia. That was exactly how he had reacted when she had first imprisoned him. Sophia's response had been, Alex Turner, don't bother struggling. In this life, you can only belong to me. And so, getting more and more worked up, Alex imagined himself saying those exact words back to her. How would she react? Maybe she would snap back, in your dreams, just like he had. And because she was a girl, maybe she would add, you pig. Alex's throat went dry. An inappropriate fire ignited within him, a desire to... He was jolted back to reality. It's true what they say. You become who you surround yourself with. After spending so much time with Sophia, his thought patterns were starting to mimic hers. Was this what they meant by couples starting to resemble each other? Did it begin with the way they thought? He wondered if, in their past life, Sophia had ever had any unspeakable desires toward him while he was her prisoner. She had never done anything too out of line. Looking back now, he felt a strange, tiny flicker of regret. Ugh, am I a monster? He thought. He supposed that men and women expressed possessiveness in different ways. And if the Sophia of his past life had truly gone wild, and, well, given how ungrateful he had been, he probably would have been even more miserable. He heard Sophia laugh. Husband, did you dip your mouth in honey this morning? Are you trying to give me a cavity? Alex quickly pushed his dangerous thoughts aside and said seriously, I'm just telling the truth. Sophia stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Then, she turned to walk out the door, shaking her head with a sigh. Honestly, husband, you have so many tricks up your sleeve. If you want a reward, just say so. Alex touched the spot on his cheek where Sophia had just kissed him, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Honestly, that girl, if she wanted to get handsy with him, she should just say so instead of looking for excuses. Walking ahead of him, Sophia suddenly stopped. She turned around, her eyes narrowed suspiciously as she studied him. Alex was bewildered. What now? No, wait. Husband, what was that look on your face just now? Huh? Alex said, completely lost. It's not like she had eyes in the back of her head, so she must be referring to... Right before I said you were trying to give me a cavity. Your expression was weird. You were definitely up to no good. Spill it. What were you thinking about? Alex was speechless. So this was payback, was it? He opened his mouth. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. Don't lie, husband. You know you're a terrible liar. Alex, who had been about to spin a tale, fell silent. He might as well just tell her the truth and see how she reacted. He paused for a moment. If I tell you the truth, you have to promise not to get mad. Fine, I confess. I was just thinking that if you ever try to leave me, I would definitely drag you back and lock you up with those chains. As he spoke, he saw Sophia freeze, her eyes widening in disbelief. You. Alex mimicked her earlier expression, narrowing his own eyes. A domineering aura suddenly radiated from him. He stepped closer, a wicked smile playing on his lips. Sophie, you didn't actually think you were the only one who could lock someone up, did you? Don't forget, the tables can turn. So you better stay by my side always. Because to keep you with me, there's nothing I wouldn't do. Sophia took a flustered step back. Alex advanced, thinking she's actually scared. So when I use her own tactics against her, she can't handle it? Sophie, that's a bit of a double standard. Not so cute now, are you? His wicked smile deepened. He threw her own words from the previous night back at her. Are you scared? At that, Sophia stopped retreating. She looked up at him. If I ever leave you, you'll really chain me up? Alex gave a half-truthful nod. Suddenly, a brilliant smile spread across her face. Alex was baffled. Her smile wasn't one of feigned nonchalance. It was filled with a sense of relieved surprise. She placed her hand on his chest, feeling the strong, steady beat of his heart. Husband, can you promise me you'll do it? Of course. No, you can't, she said, her eyes telling him she knew he was lying. Husband, you're too gentle. You could never bring yourself to be rough with me. Alex was speechless. Damn it, she seemed to know him better than he knew himself. Although he sometimes had strange, possessive, and even perverted thoughts, if it ever came down to it, he probably wouldn't be able to go through with it. The image of a broken, tragic Sophia both thrilled him and stirred a deep, primal desire, but he would never actually hurt her just to satisfy some dark fantasy. Let's not get into whether I could or not, Alex said, trying to steer the conversation back on track. Sophie, are you really not scared? Why would I be scared? She countered. By doing that, you're just showing me how much you care. I couldn't be happier. Not true. You backed away just now. I did, but it wasn't because of your wild words. Sophia's expression turned serious. She paused for a moment before continuing. Husband, did you think I was just playing around yesterday? If you ever truly have the intention of leaving me, I will lock you up. For real. What she didn't know was that no one was more aware of that fact than Alex. "I was just surprised," she said with a relieved smile. "Surprised that you and I were thinking the exact same thing. Husband, you want to lock me up, and I want to lock you up? How are we so perfectly in sync?" Her reaction was completely unexpected. Alex smiled gently. "Well, in that case, maybe we should just lock each other up and call it day." With Sophia's nod, it was as if they had signed a sacred, inviolable contract. The contract became an invisible chain, binding them together for all eternity. Miss Sophia is recovering much faster than expected. She won't need any more 4 drips. Just have her take this medicine for 3 more days, and she should be fully recovered. After the doctor's diagnosis, the medical team left. Alex, holding a glass of water and the pills, went to make sure Sophia took her medicine. He walked into the study and found Sophia there, also holding a glass of water and a pill on her way to find him. "I told you not to be so reckless," she began before he could say a word. "Hurry up and take your medicine." "How did you know I caught it from you?" Alex couldn't figure out how he had given himself away. Sophia shot him an exasperated look. "It's simple. I just had to wait for you to confess." Alex, who had just done exactly that, offered a sheepish grin. "It's not that bad, really. My throat's just a little scratchy. Besides my throat being a little scratchy and sore, I have no other symptoms. With my amazing physique, I can beat this with just a few glasses of water. Is that it?" Sophia finished his sentence for him, then glared. "This flu is no joke. A lot of people have caught it. It's not that easy to just beat it. Now, take your medicine." She was so fierce. It had been a long time since Sophia had been fierce with him. Alex obediently swallowed the pill. The lukewarm water carried it down his throat, and he felt the scratchiness ease. It was actually a relief not to have to hide it from her anymore. Sophia hugged him, her voice filled with guilt. "I'm sorry, husband. I apologize for being so harsh just now. But you were right. I was hiding it. If you hadn't stayed up all night taking care of me, you might not have gotten sick. It's all my fault." So she had figured that out, too. They had originally planned to visit his parents that day, but considering they were both contagious, they decided against it to avoid getting Michael and Emily sick. Sophia had someone deliver preventative medicine to them, and then she and Alex happily began their shameless life in quarantine. Crash! A glass slipped from someone's hand, shattering on the hard floor. Hot water and shards of glass sprayed everywhere. "Zach, what happened?" A weak voice called from the bedroom. Zach snapped back to reality and quickly blamed the cat. "That darn Mimi." She knocked over the glass of water. "It just poured for you. I'll get you another one right now." The cat, sleeping comfortably on the balcony, blinked. Zach shakily grabbed another glass, filled it with water, and brought it to his sick mother. The flu was hitting everyone hard, including her. "Zach, why do you look so pale? Are you not feeling well, too?" No, I'm fine. Drink lots of water, and there's preventative medicine in the cabinet. Take some." Yeah, I know, Mom." After taking her medicine, his mother, propped up by pillows, rambled on with a few more instructions. Seeing Zach's distracted, half-hearted, apathetic nods, she sighed and lay back down, drifting into a feverish sleep. The moment Zach closed the bedroom door behind him, his body began to shake uncontrollably. Something had happened to Lily Thompson's mother. With fumbling hands, Zach dialed a number. The line was busy. In a moment of desperation, he dialed a number he hadn't called since high school graduation. When Jake Ramirez saw Zach's name on his caller ID, he let out a surprise huh. He and Zach couldn't stand each other. It hadn't always been that way, but Zach's mindless devotion to Lily and his resulting antagonism toward Alex had put them on opposing sides. And so, a pointless rivalry was born. "Jake, I've got things covered here. You can take the call," June said. "Thanks, June." June watched Jake walk outside, a resigned smile on her face. The kid was getting bolder. He used to call her Junjia, but somewhere along the line, the honorific had disappeared. Oh well, it didn't really matter to her. Jake walked over to the planter across from the boba shop and answered with an impatient, "Yeah?" A familiar, irritating voice came through the phone. "Jake, spit it out. What do you want?" Jake said irritably. He glanced back at the shop, where June was helping a customer. He didn't want her to see this side of him. Jake did. "Did you know?" "How can I know if you don't tell me?" Jake sneered. "Zach, before you talk to me, maybe try to get your tongue untangled first. You sound like you can barely speak." Strangely, Zach didn't get angry. It's bad." Only then did Jake realize Zach's voice was trembling with extreme fear. His impatience gave way to surprise. "What happened?" he asked, perplexed. Given their relationship, even if Zach was in trouble, he wouldn't come to him for help. He was friends with Spencer. He would call him. Fearing Jake would hang up, Zach took a deep breath and rushed the words out. Jake, something happened to Lily Thompson's mom. Huh? Jake said, confused. Oh, that's it? Thanks for calling to share the good news. Lily was trash, and so was her mother. After Lily was arrested, her mother had relentlessly harassed Alex. If it weren't for the fact that Alex had moved and had Sophia protecting him, a shrew like her would have made his life a living hell. Zach gasped. You think this is good news? Of course it is, isn't it? Jake said matter-of-factly. She caused Alex enough trouble. But she's dead. What? Jake was stunned. Dead. Lily's mom wasn't that old. Did she get sick? Was it an accident? Or did she kill herself over her daughter being locked up? It suddenly dawned on him that Zach wouldn't be calling him for no reason. Jake frowned. Zach, what are you trying to say? Stop beating around the bush. Zach's voice was laced with venom and terror. It was Alex. Alex killed her. Jake froze. When the words registered, he exploded with fury. You're full of shit. If you say one more damn word, I swear I'll come over there and wreck you. It's true. You have to believe me. Zach closed his eyes in despair. He felt like he was next. An image of a pair of cold, ruthless eyes flashed in his mind. He shuddered, suddenly remembering why he had called Jake in the first place. Lily's mom provoked Alex a few days ago, and now she's dead. Are you telling me that's a coincidence? Maybe Alex doesn't have the means to do something like that. But Jake, you know what his girlfriend is capable of? She's rich and powerful. There's nothing she can't do. Go to hell. Jake roared. Zach's eyes widened in disbelief. He had been trying to get information from Jake about Alex's rich girlfriend, but Jake wasn't playing by the rules. He hung up before Zach could even argue. After running into Alex on their trip, he and Spencer had both assumed Alex had been dumped. But the news about Lily's mom made him realize things weren't that simple. Maybe the idea that Alex had been dumped was just wishful thinking. One thing was for sure. Alex, the poor kid, couldn't make someone disappear without a trace and get away with it. That meant it had to be the work of that ice-cold heiress. Zach's body trembled uncontrollably, a deep-seated fear taking root in his bones. Were he and Spencer next? This was all Spencer's fault. Why did he have to drag Lily's mom into it? Now he, an innocent bystander, was caught in the crossfire. But was he really so innocent? Zach seemed to have forgotten how he had praised Spencer for his brilliant idea at the time. Jake regretted hanging up so quickly. He should have cursed the bastard out a bit more before ending the call. Jake Ramirez thought it over and decided he had to call Alex Turner. When the phone rang, Sophia Reed, who had been comfortably nestled in Alex's arms watching a movie, wrinkled her nose. Who would be so annoying as to interrupt her one-on-one time with her husband? Of course, if it was his parents calling, she wouldn't have said a word. It was only natural for parents to call their son. As much as she wanted to have Alex all to herself, she understood that he had a mother and a father, and responsibilities beyond her that he couldn't just abandon. She and Alex were a unit. His parents were her parents, his duties her duties. Alex glanced at his phone. It's Jake. Sophia let out a little huff of discontent through her nose. Alex, not wanting to disturb her movie, started to get up to take the call elsewhere, but she stopped him. The noise of a phone call was far less distracting than losing her human pillow. That would kill the mood much faster. Amused, Alex watched as Sophia pulled his arm back around her waist before he answered the phone. Jake cut right to the chase. Alex, Zach Johnson just called me. Zach Johnson? What did he want? He told me Lily Thompson's mother is dead. Did you know about that? Alex was baffled. How would I know that? Wait, Lily's mom. Is she really dead? He wondered, subconsciously glancing at Sophia, who was still engrossed in the film. He's lost his mind, hasn't he? He's insisting her death has something to do with you. Jake continued, his voice tinny over the phone. And hey, did Lily's mom actually come looking for you a couple of days ago? Wait, how would Zach even know about that? Don't listen to his nonsense, Alex said, a headache already forming. Sophia looked up at him, pausing the movie. After Alex recounted what Jake had said, Sophia looked at him with a playful smile, her next words startling. Ever think maybe I did it? In the past, a comment like that would have sent a chill down his spine. With Sophia's resources, she could do whatever she wanted. For some people drunk on power, that might be a thrill. But Alex's deeply ingrained values made him selfishly hope that the girl he loved would never have to get her hands dirty. If something absolutely had to be done, he would be the one to do it. His reason for ignoring the provocations from Lily's mother, Spencer Hayes, and Zach Johnson was precisely because he knew his Sophie wouldn't let it slide. At the same time, he trusted her to know where the line was. What's going on in that little head of yours? Alex asked, gently ruffling her hair. Well, I did have someone make some trouble for her, Sophia admitted. Sophie, the most you would do is make her life difficult, Alex said with conviction. Sophia's eyes narrowed, like a lazy cat being petted by its owner, her entire body relaxing in contentment. Damn, you know me too well, husband. I won't be able to tease you anymore. Sophia had made a promise to Edward Vance to live a clean life. That was the first chain that bound her. The second, Alex probably didn't realize, was him. He was so warm, so bright. Sophia was afraid that if her hand were stained with blood, she wouldn't be worthy of him, that she would contaminate his pure, good nature. Those two chains held her fast. They also made her who she was. When someone truly needed to disappear, Sophia wouldn't do it herself. She would cleverly arrange for them to die by their own hand, so to speak. No one was perfect, and she was an expert at finding people's self-destructive tendencies and giving them a little push into the abyss. Dealing with Lily's mother was no different. Husband, I've secretly directed a little play, she said. But you're so noble and pure. I thought you might not be interested, so I was hesitating to tell you. Alex was surprised. What play? Sophia gave him a mysterious smile. You're so smart. Want to guess who the main actors are? Here's a hint. You know all of them, and there are 3. Alex's heart skipped a beat. How was that even a hint? 3 actors, all of whom he knew. It had to be Lily's mother, Zach Johnson, and Spencer Hayes. Bingo, husband, you got it. And now for an exclusive interview. Are you at this moment particularly interested in the play personally directed by yours truly? Sophia balled her right hand into a fist, holding it up to Alex's mouth like a microphone. Her mischievous expression was utterly adorable. But Alex knew that what was adorable to him was terrifying to those 3. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What on earth had this girl cooked up to get back at them for him? Do you even need to ask? Of course, I can't wait. But Sophie, can you just tell me first, is Lily's mom really dead? Sophia gave him a stern warning. That question contains spoilers. The director reserves the right to refuse to answer. Alex collapsed back onto the sofa, laughing. Sophia draped herself over him, grinning. Husband, the show is about to start. Just wait and see. All right, I'm waiting. I can't wait. Alex's throat felt tight, his voice husky. Sophie, look at us. We're both still recovering invalids, so maybe. Sophia's lips pressed against his. Alex closed his eyes in satisfaction. The kisses he stole were always rushed, like a sudden storm, thrilling, but leaving him wanting more. This was a gentle spring rain, a slow, deliberate exploration, feeling the warmth rise between them. Alex sighed in contentment. Not even the gods in heaven could have it this good. Meanwhile, Zach Johnson, one of the 3 main actors, was nervously calling Spencer Hayes. The news of Susan Thompson's death had clearly shaken Spencer as well. That hag actually died? Spencer, we're next. Zach stammered. Spencer scoffed. Zach, why are you being such a chicken? Don't talk yourself down and build them up. Look at how crazy Lily's mom was acting. Wasn't it just a matter of time before something happened to her? He paused, then added, and let's say you're right, that her death has something to do with Alex. So what? She was a nobody with no power or connections. How could she compare to us? Zach thought about it and figured he had a point. He calmed down a little. Spencer's family owned a factory and had extensive connections, even ties to people in high places. His own family, though they'd struck it rich overnight from a demolition payout, wasn't doing too badly either. Plus, he had an uncle who was a department head somewhere important. He wasn't naive. He knew Spencer was friendly with him precisely because of that connection. If Alex Turner really wanted to make a move on them, he'd have to think twice. As evening fell and the city lights began to glow, a grand reception was underway at a high-end club in downtown Seattle. Spencer Hayes, dressed to the nines in a tailored suit, moved through the crowd with a glass of champagne, putting on an air of worldliness for Zach Johnson. See this? Everyone here tonight is a top player in Seattle. Zach was like a country bumpkin on his first trip to the big city, his eyes darting everywhere, trying to memorize every face. In Spencer's words, these weren't just important people you only saw on TV. They were connections. Latch onto one of them, and the road ahead would only get wider and smoother. You've had a look around, Spencer said. See Alex Turner's girlfriend anywhere? Zach shook his head. No. Spencer adopted a knowing, arrogant look. See? I was right. Maybe his girlfriend has a little bit of money, but compared to the people we're seeing here tonight, she's nothing. But we saw her give Jake Ramirez a Ferrari with our own eyes, Zach said, confused. Spencer gave him a look that screamed. How can you be so hopelessly stupid? You think everything you see is real? How do you know they weren't just putting on a show for you? That maybe Jake never actually got that car? Man, you guys are just too sheltered. It was like a revelation for Zach. He felt a wave of shame wash over him. Compared to Spencer, he really was a nobody. But it's not your fault you haven't seen much, Spencer said, clapping him on the shoulder. Don't worry. I'll take you out more often, show you the world. He then changed the subject. But hey, Zach, you got to put in a good word for my family with your uncle, okay? Zach nodded eagerly. Don't worry, I'll do my best to set up a meeting as soon as possible. Spencer was pleased. His eyes scanned the room and suddenly lit up. He leaned in and whispered to Zach, "See that young guy over there? The one in the cream-colored suit? That's Caleb Harlan, the second son of the Harlan Corp family." Spencer got excited and, champagne glass in hand, went to strike up a conversation. The eldest Harlan's son, Ethan, was aloof and unapproachable. But the second son was rumored to be more down-to-earth, a man who knew how to have a good time. If he could get in with Caleb Harlan, all the scheming it took to get an invitation tonight would be worth it. Unfortunately, Spencer had barely managed a good evening, Mr. Harlan, before Caleb gave him a curt nod and walked away. Humiliated, Spencer muttered under his breath, "What's so great about you? You just got lucky being born." After the reception ended, Spencer, leading Zach, was walking and chatting humbly with a portly, middle-aged man. Inside a car parked across the street, Alex Turner leaned his elbow on the windowsill, watching the city's elite stream out of the club. He saw two familiar figures, no, three. Besides Spencer and Zach, he also spotted Caleb Harlan walking behind them. Sophia had always been soft-hearted, he mused. After Caleb's father died, he never left Seattle again. As long as he stayed out of Alex's way, Sophia couldn't be bothered with him. Sophia leaned over the back of his seat, resting her chin on his shoulder. "Husband, are you getting impatient? Don't worry, the show's about to start." As if on cue, Zach Johnson, walking beside Spencer, suddenly froze, his eyes fixed on something ahead. Spencer noticed his strange behavior and instinctively stopped. The moment he did, a figure came rushing toward them, grabbing a handful of his meticulously styled, hair-gelled hair. A hand rose high and then came down, slapping him across his face again and again. Zach was so terrified by the sudden turn of events that he fell to the ground, staring in horror at the person violently attacking Spencer. "A ghost! It's a ghost!" he stammered. Alex raised an eyebrow. The attacker was none other than Susan Thompson, the woman Zach claimed Alex had killed. The panicked crowd scattered. Caleb Harlan frowned and took several steps back, his assistant shielding him from the chaos. Spencer, in a panic, shoved Susan away and took off running. She shrieked and chased after him. The dignitaries at the entrance exchanged bewildered glances, forced to witness an utterly bizarre spectacle. Spencer Hayes was thoroughly and publicly humiliated. Zach didn't get hit, but he was in no better shape. He had wet himself, scared witless by the ghost of Susan Thompson come back for revenge. Alex could feel the soft vibrations from Sophia's chest against his back. Oh, a certain little troublemaker was laughing silently. "I'm such a genius," Sophia said, tooting her own horn. "The play I directed is more exciting than any movie I've ever seen. Don't you think so, husband?" Alex didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Susan Thompson wasn't dead at all. On her way back to Seattle, her nasty attitude and foul mouth had provoked a stranger who beat her senseless. Someone had sent a photo of her, bloody and unconscious on the side of the road, to Zach, misleading him into thinking she was dead. Alex, who had been her daughter's classmate for 3 years, never knew that Zach had a deep-seated fear of ghosts. After a few days in the hospital, Susan's simmering rage, with nowhere to go, was skillfully redirected by Sophia towards Spencer Hayes. The moment she was discharged, she rushed over to tear him apart. Sophia had gone to all this trouble, directing this elaborate play just to make him smile, afraid that he was still upset. Outside the club, the stench of urine soured the air, making Caleb Harlan's face darken. He sidestepped Zach and was about to leave when he heard Alex's name muttered by the pathetic clown on the ground. He stopped abruptly and looked down at Zach. "You know Alex Turner?" His gaze held a commanding authority that Zach couldn't resist. Zach's body went rigid, unable to utter a single word. His cowardly appearance disgusted Caleb, who frowned, thinking he must have misheard. A screech of tires pierced the air, followed by a driver sticking his head out the window and yelling, "Watch where you're going! You in a hurry to die?" Spencer ignored the driver's curses and scrambled across the street. "Damn it, I finally shook that crazy woman," he thought. Hissing in pain, he touched his face. He was furious. That idiot Zach. Susan Thompson wasn't dead at all, and she had used him as a punching bag. This whole thing was too strange. Someone had to be pulling the strings. It wasn't hard to guess who. It had to be Alex Turner. Rage clouded Spencer's judgment, so much so that he started hallucinating. He saw Alex standing just ahead, a faint smile on his face. Spencer rubbed his eyes hard. It wasn't a hallucination. Alex Turner was really standing there, outside a candy apple stand. His eyes red with fury. Spencer charged forward, only to be grabbed by the arm. Zach was crying. "Spencer, we can't afford to mess with Alex. Just leave him alone. If you want to be a coward, go do it somewhere else. Let go of me." Spencer roared, his face flushed. In reality, Zach just wanted the ground to swallow him whole so he could escape the continued humiliation. But now he was tied to Spencer, two grasshoppers on the same string. If Spencer provoked Alex, he would inevitably be caught in the crossfire. The realization that this guy was the cause of his current miserable state sent a surge of anger through Zach. He raised his fist, ready to punch some sense into the irrational Spencer. But then he saw Spencer freeze, staring in disbelief toward Alex. Confused, Zach followed his gaze and saw a man standing in front of Alex, a man with an air of sophisticated confidence. He looked familiar. Then it hit him. At the reception, Spencer had tried and failed to talk to him, later sneering that the guy had only gotten ahead by being born into the right family. He was the second son of Harlan Corp. Just a moment ago, when he was paralyzed with fear on the ground, hadn't this guy asked if he knew Alex Turner? He'd been too terrified to even process the question. Zach's face went pale. This was bad. Alex Turner even knew the second son of Harlan Corp. After watching the show, Sophia had a craving for a candy apple, and there happened to be a stand nearby. Alex got out of the car to buy one. As the vendor was bagging it, he smiled at Sophia, who was waiting in the car across the street. Just as he paid and was about to leave, someone stepped in front of him. Assuming it was another customer, he politely moved aside. But the person didn't move. Alex looked up and saw a face that was, to him, reasonably familiar. Caleb Harlan. The once arrogant Caleb was now actively greeting him. "Long time no see." Alex noticed that his voice and expression were remarkably calm, with no trace of sarcasm or hostility. He was slightly taken aback. The guy had changed quite a bit. The entitled air of a rich kid had been replaced by a mature composure, faintly reminiscent of his older brother, Ethan. Alex gave a polite, distant nod. "Yeah, long time. Excuse me, I have to go." He turned and walked away. Meanwhile, Zach, still reeling from the shock that Alex could actually converse with a Harlan, saw Spencer suddenly walk toward Caleb, who was standing at the candy apple stand, watching Alex's retreating back. Startled, Zach wanted to stop him, but it was too late. "Mr. Harlan." Caleb looked blankly at the bruised and swollen face before him. "This guy?" Spencer forced a sycophantic smile. "Mr. Harlan, don't you also think that Alex Turner is an incredibly pretentious guy?" Caleb said nothing, his eyes sizing up Spencer, then flicking to the hesitant Zach, standing behind him. Zach flinched, unable to meet his gaze. This wasn't just any rich kid. This was a man from a truly powerful dynasty, someone who could crush them like insignificant ants. Zach could see what Spencer was trying to do, use Caleb's power to get revenge on Alex. But how could Spencer be so sure that Caleb disliked Alex? From their angle, Spencer couldn't see Caleb's expression during his conversation with Alex, but he could clearly see the blank look on Alex's face. He was ecstatic. "The heavens are on my side." Alex was so arrogant, he didn't even show respect to the second son of Harlan Corp. Maybe his girlfriend's family had some influence, but could they be more powerful than the Harlans? Not a chance. He's digging his own grave. "Alex Turner, your time is up." Unfortunately for Spencer, he only saw Alex's supposed arrogance and dismissal of Caleb. He didn't see that it was Caleb who had initiated the conversation. He had also disastrously misinterpreted Caleb's silent gaze at Alex's back as disapproval. He was dead wrong, and he was walking straight into his own demise. Tragically, he was completely oblivious, lost in the fantasy of using Caleb Harlan to crush Alex Turner under his heel. "You know Alex Turner?" Caleb asked him passively. "Of course I do. He was my high school classmate," Spencer declared. Caleb seemed slightly interested. "So, you must know him pretty well." "Naturally. Alex Turner has no real talent. His only skill is kissing up and taking shortcuts. And what do you know, he actually managed to land himself a sugar mama." The car that had been parked across the street was long gone. Caleb gestured for him to continue. "Ever since he hooked up with her, he looks down on everyone. He's got no morals. Just because the most popular girl in our class wouldn't date him, he framed her and got her sent to jail. He got our dean of students fired. It's one thing for him to disrespect us." Spencer leaned inconspiratorially. "But Mr. Harlan, you have no idea. He used to tell everyone behind your back that besides being born lucky, you were a complete nobody." At this, Caleb's lips curved into a dark smile. "He really said that?" Spencer immediately swore to the heavens. "It's the absolute truth. If I'm lying, may I be struck dead." Zach was dumbfounded. Spencer was really going all out to get back at Alex. But why would the great Caleb Harlan believe him? Spencer, however, was confident he could provoke Caleb's anger. He'd heard the young heir had a volatile temper and hated it when people brought up his lack of achievements. All he had to do was add a little fuel to the fire, and Alex Turner would be toast. As expected, Caleb's face darkened. He really said that. Spencer gloated internally. But Caleb's next words were, "From where I'm standing, it sounds like you're the one saying it." He kicked out, sending Spencer flying backward into a wall. Zach's legs trembled. He almost wet himself again. Spencer stared in horror as Caleb advanced on him, utterly confused as to why he had turned on him so suddenly. "It was Alex who said all those things, not me. I was just repeating what he said," he cried. Caleb grinned, a wild, unrestrained smile. "You think I should believe you over him? Mr. Harlan, you have to believe me. Everything I said is true." Spencer stammered. Caleb looked at him like he was an idiot. "You think I'm sick in the head? Why would I believe some random stranger over my own brother-in-law?" Spencer thought he had misheard. Alex Turner was Caleb Harlan's brother-in-law. Caleb emotionlessly beckoned to Zach with a finger. Zach shuffled forward, trembling, a cold dampness spreading down his legs. Caleb's expression was cold and menacing. "If you two ever bother Alex again, or try to ruin his reputation, I will make your lives a living hell." Spencer's face was slack, his eyes filled with a dead, hopeless expression. Zach collapsed to the ground, his body shaking uncontrollably. Disgusted, Caleb took off the shoes he'd been wearing and tossed them out the car window. "Ran into two complete morons. What a waste of time," he said coldly. His assistant tried to console him. "Sir, don't let people like that get to you. It's not worth getting angry over." Suddenly, Caleb clutched his stomach and started laughing. He laughed harder and harder, so manically that the driver's hands slipped on the wheel, nearly hitting the guardrail. The assistant stared in horror. Has the second young master lost his mind? "Haha, interesting. This is truly interesting." Caleb howled, pounding on the seat. The young assistant was on the verge of tears. "What do you do when your boss suddenly goes insane?" "I need help, urgently." Just as suddenly as it began, Caleb's laughter stopped. He stared out the window, his expression heavy and silent. The assistant held his breath, not daring to make a sound. So, the composure was just an act? Deep down, is he still the same unpredictable, troublesome rich kid? But the assistant didn't see the knowing, bitter smile on his boss's face. Just as I thought. No wonder tonight's dog-eat-dog drama felt so familiar, because Sophia had used the exact same tactic on him. It was a long, painful story. Looking back on that humiliating past, Caleb found he wasn't as bitter about it anymore. "Don't report today's events to my brother," Caleb instructed his assistant. The assistant hesitated. "I know what I'm doing," Caleb continued, "and I won't go looking for trouble with people I shouldn't. I'm not telling you this because I'm afraid of my brother. I just don't want him to worry about me anymore." The assistant managed a weak smile. "Yes, Mr. Harlan." Caleb shot him a glare. "Call me Mr. Harlan Jr." "Yes, Mr. Harlan Jr. What is this candy apple? It's disgusting. This is a scam. I'm going to have him run out of Seattle." Sophia, who had happily accepted the treat her husband bought for her, took one bite and immediately scrunched up her face. "It's bad?" Alex asked, surprised. She angrily shoved the candy apple at him. "Try it yourself if you don't believe me." Thinking, how bad can a candy apple be to make Sophie this upset? Alex cautiously took a bite of one of the candied fruits. As he started to chew, he realized that Sophia, despite her complaints, hadn't spit out her bite. Then it occurred to him that if it was truly horrible, she would never have let him test the poison. He knew her well. She was happy to share her fortunes with him, but she would never willingly let him share her misfortunes. She would silently bear all hardships for him. By the time he figured out he'd been had, Sophia had finished her first piece and was calmly biting into a third. Alex was speechless. He reached out and ruffled her hair, completely endeared. "You little liar." His Sophie was really just a big kid. "Well, it's your fault for only buying one," she grumbled. "What will people think? That we're so poor, we can only afford one candy apple." Even as she muttered her complaints, her eyes closed in blissful enjoyment of his gentle touch. Then, a thought made her frown. "What did that Caleb Harlan guy say to you?" "He just said it's been a while," Alex answered honestly. "To be honest, I think he's changed." He had sensed a prodigal son returned in Caleb. Sophia was unimpressed. With his flashy personality, if he wasn't born rich, he would have been beaten to death countless times by now. "Well, that's because my dear Sophie is magnanimous enough to give him a chance to turn his life around. I only did it for Ethan and Victor Harlan's sake," Sophia said, changing the subject. "Husband, do you really think I spared the Harlans out of the kindness of my heart? It wasn't that. I had an agreement with old Mr. Harlan. This was the first time Alex had heard about Victor Harlan, the grandfather of Ethan and Caleb, and of course, Sophia's biological grandfather. That old man was much better than his son. His only fault was being old. Otherwise, if he had still been in charge, my uncle never would have succeeded in turning Harlan Corp into my final exam. There were many people Sophia praised so generously. Alex was one, and Victor Harlan was another. Alex couldn't help but feel a strong curiosity about this old man he'd never met. So, where is he now? He's been lying in the ground for over a year, Sophia said calmly. Alex blinked. Oh, it took him a moment to process that Victor Harlan had passed away. The second year after my uncle took me in, the old man came to see me. He knew about you? Yeah, Ethan must have told him. Why not his father or his wife? Sophia shook her head. I check later. It wasn't them. Ethan denied it, of course, but I don't think it could have been anyone else. Alex thought for a moment and pieced it together. Caleb and Ethan's father had never intended to acknowledge Sophia, so he wouldn't have said anything. And their mother was said to be a woman who valued emotional purity. When she discovered her husband's supposed devotion was a lie, she had become disillusioned, moved abroad, and cut all ties with him. She would have had no desire to involve herself in such a messy and humiliating situation. That only left Ethan. He was one of the few who knew of Sophia's existence. It was he who had deliberately looked the other way, allowing Sophia to escape their father's control. Alex imagined how it must have happened. After Sophia ran away, perhaps for a fleeting moment, Ethan had wished she would disappear from their lives forever. But after calming down, his inherent decency must have troubled him. People can feel pity for a humble ant, let alone a living, breathing person. And no matter how awkward her identity was, the blood tie between them was undeniable. After careful consideration, Ethan must have told his grandfather, who had retired from the front lines to enjoy his golden years. Victor Harlan, after his initial rage, must have begun searching for his long-lost granddaughter, keeping it a secret from his son. His efforts eventually paid off. In the second year after Sophia was taken in by Edward Vance, Victor Harlan finally found her. He wanted to take her with him. Sophia, standing beside Edward, looked at him coolly. Are you going to be like him? Raise me just to marry me off to some random family? Victor Harlan was silent for a long time. Finally, filled with shame, he muttered, "What a sin," and left. A few days later, she heard from Edward that Victor Harlan had found some other excuse to give his son a severe dressing down. The man had hidden at the office, too afraid to go home. Victor visited Sophia a few more times after that, each time bringing her beautiful clothes and doll's fit for a young girl. He also left her a black card with a large sum of money on it. He said the Harlan family owed her. Sophia didn't even glance at the clothes and dolls. She promptly gave the black card to Edward as a sign of her filial piety. He accepted it with a smile, praising her thoughtfulness, but in reality, he never spent a dime of it, eventually giving it back to her. Later, when Edward was preparing her final exam by covertly targeting Harlan Corp, Victor Harlan sensed it. He came to find Sophia again. Swallowing his pride, the old man begged her to leave the Harlan family with a shred of dignity in the future. Looking at the white-haired old man, overcome with a shame he couldn't hide, Sophia, on a whim, agreed. "Sophie, why are you so thin?" Emily Turner held Sophia's hand, whom she hadn't seen in a few days. Seeing no flesh on her wrist, so slender it looked as if it would snap, her heart ached. If she had known Sophia wasn't eating well while she was sick, Emily would have risked getting infected herself and gone to take care of them. If she had been there to supervise, at least they would have eaten a few more bites. Sophia felt a pang of guilt and glanced at Alex for help. "Mom, it's normal to lose your appetite when you're sick," Alex said. Emily shot him a glare. "You have the nerve to talk? What did your father and I tell you? Why didn't you take good care of Sophie?" Alex was speechless. Great. He'd just drawn the fire onto himself. Sophia quickly came to his defense. "And Emily, it's not his fault. He was sick too." Emily shook her head and told them both to stay put, then called Michael Turner into the kitchen. They needed to whip up something delicious to help the two of them recover. Sophia was still shaken. "Husband, I got you into trouble. But my mom's right. I didn't take good care of you." A sly smile crept across Sophia's face. "Husband, have you noticed? I think your parents like me more than their own son." Alex played along, putting on a troubled expression. "Which is why I need to hold on tight to your leg. If Mom and Dad ever kick me out, at least I'll still have you." "Why my leg?" "Pull my waist. It's much more secure," Sophia giggled. "And Emily, Uncle Michael, I'm here." A familiar figure burst in, carrying a large box. Alex didn't even need to look to know it was filled with imported treats for Pudge. As soon as Brandon Pierce saw Sophia, he quickly declared, "Sophie, I came to see Uncle and Auntie." Sophia gave him a cool nod. He immediately scurried inside, with Pudge trotting happily behind him, tail wagging. Out of sight from Alex and Sophia, Brandon gently nudged Pudge's chubby backside with his foot and grumbled, "You little traitor." After finishing his last delivery, Jake Ramirez pulled off his disposable gloves, said goodbye to his coworker taking over the shift, and walked out with June Shaw. He and June were on the same shift. How else were they supposed to get to know each other? His efforts were paying off. Spending time together every day had brought them much closer. "What kind of apartment are you looking for?" Jake asked as they walked. Simon Shaw, who had gone back to his hometown, had convinced their grandfather and would be returning after settling some family matters. Finding a suitable place to live was now urgent. June's current apartment was in the suburbs of Seattle. The rent was cheap, but it was a long and tiring commute to work. Now that she had a stable job with better-than-expected pay, and Simon could cover his own daily expenses and tuition with money to spare, the two of them decided to find a place not too far from the boba shop and the university, so their elderly grandfather could live more comfortably. "A two-bedroom," June said. "One for me, one for Grandpa." Ideally, she wanted a three-bedroom, so her brother would have a place to stay when he visited. But even a two-bedroom was a stretch for them financially. A three-bedroom was simply too expensive. Jake knew their situation and wanted to help, but his own means were limited. Besides, he knew the self-reliant siblings well. They would never accept a handout. So he did what he could. He certainly didn't mind spending a hot day helping June look for an apartment. Every second spent alone with the girl he liked was wonderful. "Jake! Jake, wait up!" A sudden shout forced Jake to stop and look back, confused. A figure was rushing toward him. Jake glanced behind the guy. Nothing scary was chasing him. So why did he look so panicked? The sun beat down, making their skin prickle. Jake pulled June by the sleeve into the shade, then turned to Zach Johnson, trying to contain his impatience. "What is it?" One minute he's calling to tell him Alex is connected to Susan Thompson's death. The next he's running up to him on the street. What did this guy want? Jake wished he could send June into a cool, comfortable shop to wait for him. He couldn't guarantee Zach wouldn't say something to tick him off, and he didn't want June to see him lose his temper. Once June was gone, Jake moved away from the boba shop and glared at Zach. "Jake, I need to see Alex. Can you help me?" Zach pleaded, his face a mask of misery. "Why do you want to see him?" "He doesn't want to see you," Jake said warily. "For the sake of our 3 years as classmates, please, just help me." Zach was close to tears, grabbing Jake's arm. Jake was taken aback. "What happened? This isn't how the story is supposed to go. I don't know where he lives. I can't find him. Can you just help me set up a meeting? And you want to see him?" "Why?" Jake asked, hesitant. "To atone. I need to atone for what I did. I'll get on my knees and beg for his forgiveness. I don't care. As long as he forgives me, I'll do anything. I know I was wrong. I accuse him unfairly. I shouldn't have spread rumors. Susan Thompson isn't even dead. Anyway, please, I'm begging you." Zach's words tumbled out in a chaotic, incoherent mess, making Jake's head spin. Susan Thompson got what she deserved, Spencer got what he deserved, and I'm next. Overwhelmed, Zach actually dropped to his knees in front of Jake to show his sincerity. Susan Thompson had been detained for 15 days for public assault in order to pay Spencer $2 million in compensation. Spencer's face wasn't worth $2 million, but the designer watch he wore to the gala to show off certainly was. The only thing Susan owned was the house she got in the divorce, and even selling that wouldn't be enough to cover the cost. Spencer was in even worse shape. Besides his face being ruined, his disgraceful behavior at the gala, possibly with a little nudge from Caleb Harlan, had caused his family to lose a major business deal, costing them tens of millions. His father had beaten him black and blue with a belt. He was now laid up in the hospital and wouldn't be getting out of bed for at least 2 weeks. So far, Zach was the luckiest of the three. Other than publicly wetting his pants, he hadn't suffered any other losses. But he knew it wasn't that he'd been spared. His punishment just hadn't arrived yet. It wasn't just Alex who might not let him off the hook, but Caleb Harlan wouldn't either. That idiot Spencer. He'd actually tried to use Caleb Harlan to deal with Alex, only to find out he'd picked a fight with his own side. Alex was Caleb's brother-in-law. The powerhouse behind Alex Turner was the entire Harlan Corporation. No wonder Alex was so arrogant. If it were him, he'd be even more arrogant. The fear of knowing disaster was coming, but not knowing when, was unbearable. The fates of Susan Thompson and Spencer terrified him. Caleb Harlan's warning hung over his head like a cold, gleaming sword, ready to drop and run him through at any moment. He couldn't take it anymore. Living in constant fear felt like being subjected to slow, agonizing torture. If this continued, He'd go crazy before any revenge even came. The one who tied the bell must be the one to untie it. Zach knew the only person who could save him was Alex Turner. But Alex's status was on a completely different level now. Forget asking for mercy. He couldn't even get a meeting with him. After thinking it over, his only option was to go through Jake. He had run to Jake, begging for his help, ready to kowtow and apologize to Alex in person. He'd call Alex daddy 100 times if that's what it took. As long as Alex was willing to let him off, he would do anything. Jake sighed. You reap what you sow. And now, thanks to Alex, he had Zach Johnson kneeling before him on a public street. He was glad June hadn't seen it, or she might have mistaken him for some kind of low-key street boss. Completely exasperated, Jake managed to get rid of him and decided he had to let his friend know. He called Alex. Now, it was Alex's turn to be exasperated. So now he's scared. He was certainly full of himself a couple of days ago when he was trying to make a scene. What is wrong with some people? Are their brains filled with nothing but snobbery? Always bullying the weak and fearing the strong, unable to stand seeing others do well. Truth be told, he'd had very little interaction with Spencer and Zach, yet for some inexplicable reason, they had set themselves against him, taking pleasure in putting him down. It was baffling. In his past life, even if he felt wronged and angry, the power imbalance would have forced him to swallow his pride just to maintain a peaceful life. Now the tables had turned. In this life, the power was his. It was their turn to be put down, and they couldn't handle it. But unlike his past life, where he was targeted for no reason, they had actively provoked him. Their downfall was their own damn fault. With their petty, opportunistic personalities, even if Alex didn't actively go after them, they would never live peaceful lives. But what was Caleb Harlan's involvement in all this? Sophia lifted her head from her laptop screen, an aura of commanding power radiating from her. Alex quickly reached out to stroke her head, as if to cool her down. The girl who was usually like a clingy, affectionate kitten in front of him was, in reality, still the decisive, formidable CEO who called the shots. Sophia's eyes narrowed slightly. The next moment, she realized she couldn't just get lost in Alex's gentle touch. There was important business to attend to. With sheer willpower, she grabbed his hand, brought it to her rosy lips, and kissed it. Then she settled into his arms, pulling his arm around her waist, unapologetically using him as a human backrest. That Caleb Harlan guy warned your classmates to stay away from you, or he'd make them pay, she analyzed, finding it hard to believe. Alex nodded, confused. That's what Jake said, yes. Even someone as brilliant as Sophia couldn't figure out what game Caleb was playing. What is he up to? Who knows? It's almost like he was defending me. Huh, I think that guy needs to get his head checked, Sophia scoffed. Alex thought that, while her words were sharp, she might actually have a point. Caleb Harlan, defending him in front of Zach? The idea was absurd. It was because of him that Caleb had angered Sophia, earning him a slap and an exile from Seattle. Although he and Ethan were brothers, their personalities were worlds apart. Caleb was reckless, impulsive, and arrogant, a typical spoiled rich kid who did whatever he wanted. Ethan was reserved and steady, always considering the bigger picture, a worthy heir to the company. If it had been Ethan who had said those things to Zach, it would have been slightly out of character, but still plausible. He had been quietly trying to mend his relationship with Sophia. But Caleb, he and Sophia were like fire and water. By extension, his relationship with Alex was tense and awkward. How could he possibly defend Alex to other people? Sophia couldn't be bothered to waste her energy trying to figure out Caleb's motives. She issued a command. Charles, give me an explanation from Caleb Harlan. Charles Harrington went to carry out his orders and returned a short while later. Miss Sophia, the second young master replies that it was a personal action and has nothing to do with you or Mr. Turner. The response was very. Caleb. Sophia's aura turned icy. She gave a cold laugh. He really said that? It seems I've been too merciful. Does he want to get kicked out of Seattle again? In the Harlan family's lavish villa in Seattle's most exclusive neighborhood, Caleb's uncle paced anxiously through the exquisitely decorated living room. Seeing his good-for-nothing nephew slouched on the sofa, engrossed in a video game, he was overcome with a mix of anger and frustration. Caleb, aren't you going to explain yourself? Even if you won't explain it to me, fine, but you have to explain it to Ms. Reed. Caleb ignored him completely. His uncle's temper flared. Do you want to get kicked out of Seattle again? Fine, fine. If you won't listen to your elder, then I'll go get your brother. Caleb tossed his phone aside in annoyance. Uncle, are you really that scared of a little girl? Caleb, I see you've forgotten the pain once the scar has healed. Have you forgotten how you had to tuck your tail between your legs and get out of this city? His uncle shouted, his voice jumping an octave. The moment the words were out, he realized he'd gone too far. But the kid had been quiet for a while and was now stirring up trouble again. If he didn't scold him awake, he would be doing him a disservice. His brother was gone, his sister-in-law was living in seclusion, and Ethan was busy with the company. He was the only one left to play the bad guy. Steeling himself, his uncle's tone grew stern. Caleb, staying on good terms with Ms. Reed was your grandfather's dying wish. Have you forgotten that too? Caleb remained silent. Caleb, I know you're unhappy, but in life, things don't always go your way. If you ask me, Ms. Reed is actually quite reasonable. As long as we're a little careful not to cross her, we can all coexist peacefully. Caleb finally spoke. Uncle, it's not what you think. I'm not trying to pick a fight with her. I just happened to run into two of Alex Turner's classmates who were giving him a hard time, and I warned them to leave him alone. That's all. Although Alex had never been formally introduced to the Harlan family, on the night Caleb was exiled from Seattle, everyone in the family was urgently informed of who he was and how important he was to Sophia. They were strictly warned never to follow in Caleb's footsteps and foolishly provoke her. Alex himself was no threat, but he was the apple of Sophia's eye. Caleb's uncle stared at his sullen nephew, asking subconsciously why. Why? In Sophia's mansion, she couldn't help but ask the same question. Summoned by an order from the estate, Caleb had been shoved into a car by his uncle and rushed over. With a wooden expression, he repeated the same explanation he had given his uncle. When Sophia asked why, her face was filled with undisguised suspicion, her gaze sharp and analytical. Her powerful aura was on full display. In that moment, she was the master of all things, and Caleb was a mere ant she could dispose of at will. Alex, meanwhile, casually peeled a banana and took a large bite. Sweet and soft. Delicious. Caleb stood before Sophia like a schoolboy being scolded by his teacher for not finishing his homework. His eyes shifted uncomfortably, landing on Alex. Alex met his gaze, offered a slight smile, and took a second bite as if no one else was in the room. Caleb was speechless. They were both human, but their treatment was worlds apart. Alex was lounging on a plush sofa with food and drink, while he was forced to stand, not even worthy of a hard stool. He was being interrogated like a criminal. A year ago, Caleb couldn't imagine the storm he would have raised in his fury. But no, in front of Sophia, he couldn't raise any storm. He had to know his place. Answer my question, Sophia said, her patience wearing thin. Caleb pressed his lips together, then seemed to throw caution to the wind. Sophia, the grievances of the previous generation shouldn't involve us. Let's call a truce, what do you say? After saying his piece, he let out a soft breath of relief and looked directly into Sophia's eyes, his expression sincere. You probably want nothing to do with my brother, me, or the Harlan family. That's fine, as long as you're happy. If possible, I'd like to make peace with you. Alex, having finished his banana and about to toss the peel, was genuinely surprised. Caleb Harlan was actively seeking to bury the hatchet with Sophia. His earlier feeling was right. The once arrogant, hot-headed heir had indeed changed. He had become calmer, smarter. Sophia raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. A truce? What a novel idea. But what was there to make peace about? She had never considered him, or the entire Harlan family, to be on her level. She was that arrogant. She was Sophia Reed, and she had the power to back it up. She had never taken their conflicts seriously. There was nothing to reconcile. When Caleb realized this, he let out a low laugh. So, had he been taking himself and his family too seriously? Still, this outcome wasn't so bad. He had come to terms with his past foolishness and understood the gap between himself and Sophia. He accepted it. It wasn't so terrible for the Harlan family to be under this young woman's control. Their prestige, their dignity, their wealth, none of it had diminished. Except for that one time he had foolishly challenged her and had his allowance severely cut. She honored her agreements. She wouldn't break her promise to his grandfather. That was enough. Outside the mansion gates, standing in the same spot where he had once fought with another man, Caleb calmly said, Mr. Harrington, you can stop here. Charles Harrington maintained his polite, professional smile, but to Caleb, it no longer seemed irritating. Mr. Harlan Jr., take care. Caleb nodded and turned to leave. Gazing up at the blue sky, he felt a sudden sense of liberating clarity. Alex finished his banana and reached for another from the exquisite fruit platter. Sophia shot him a sideways glance. Husband, if you eat so much now, you won't be hungry for dinner. Alex peeled the bright yellow banana, revealing the pale fruit inside, and held it to Sophia's lips with a smile. You're right. I need to save room for dinner. So this one's for you, Sophie. Sophia took a bite without ceremony and slumped against him, her cheeks moving as she chewed contentedly. The sight made Alex's hand itch. He reached out and poked her cheek. It was soft and smooth, an addictive feeling. She pretended to bite him. Alex playfully offered his finger to her lips. She actually nipped it. It was like a playful kitten playing with its owner. She would never bite down hard. Looking at his playful, adorable kitten, Alex felt a tingling sensation from his bitten finger spread through his entire body. His throat tightened, and a small flame of desire flickered to life within him. Sophia sensed the danger and quickly released his finger. Alex, his index finger still damp from her saliva, gently pinched her smooth cheek. He slowly draped his arm over her shoulder, lowered his head, and leaned in. His hot breath washed over her face. Sophia blinked her eyes. Just before his lips met hers, she pursed her own pink, petal-like lips and blew a soft puff of air at his face. I, the great Miss Sophia, grant you a breath of immortal energy. From this day forward, you shall command the wind and the rain. Alex chuckled. What do I care about wind and rain? All I want is for my wife, my parents, and my friends to be healthy and happy together. It was a simple, heartfelt wish. Sophia struggled to pull away from him, feigning heartbreak. Oh, all right then. I guess I'm not needed. I'll just go. She made a move to get up, but Alex laughingly hooked an arm around her slender waist, trapping her in his embrace. How could you not be needed? But you didn't mention me in that list of people, she pouted. What are you talking about? Alex asked, feigning surprise. You were the very first one. Nestled in his arms, Sophia gave him a sideways glance. Who was the first one you mentioned then? This clever, mischievous little girl. She just wanted to hear it again. My wife. I'm not your wife. If you're not my wife, then who is? We don't have a little certificate. Sophia's voice was laced with genuine longing. It was so annoying. Time was passing so slowly. When would she finally be of legal age? But then, when she was alone with her husband, she wished time would slow down to prolong the happiness. It was such a contradiction. Certificate or not, you are my wife. And without a certificate, am I not your husband? Leaning in, Alex whispered in her ear, wife. She just wanted to hear him call her that. What was the big deal? If she liked it, he could say it every day. Wife. They tumbled together on the sofa, wrestling playfully. When they had had enough, they lay wrapped in each other's arms, cheek to cheek. It was truly magical. You could get tired of even the most delicious food if you ate it too much. But Alex and Sophia were together morning and night, and they never grew tired of each other. The more they touched, the more they wanted to touch. Thinking back on the 2 days he was away for the club activity, neither of them could believe how they had survived. Sophia had even fallen ill because of it. On the surface, she had been knocked down by a virus, not lovesickness. But Alex knew that if he hadn't left, she very likely wouldn't have gotten sick. With him there, she wouldn't have been down, her spirits wouldn't have been low, and there would have been someone to cover her with a blanket if she kicked it off in her sleep. The virus might never have found an opening. In short, those 2 days apart made Alex realize with profound clarity that Sophia's tragic death in his past life was undeniably linked to him. His heart clenched with a familiar, sharp pain. Sophia was still too soft-hearted. If she had just refused to let him go, she wouldn't have left so early. It was hard to imagine how she had endured all those years without him. The pain in Alex's eyes spilled over. Sophia, looking up at him, froze. Anxiously, she reached out and smoothed the small crease between his brows. Husband, what's wrong? Alex gently rubbed his nose against hers, their breaths mingling in an intimate, lingering caress. It's nothing. Husband, you know you're a terrible liar, right? She said, giving him a look. Alex fell silent. A knot of panic tightened in Sophia's chest. Is it me? Alex's pained expression made it impossible for her not to jump to conclusions. She remembered the flu she'd had, the full-body checkup at the hospital. Had they discovered something then? But after she recovered, she felt perfectly healthy. Then again, she knew that some illnesses show no symptoms before they become severe. She remembered how Alex hadn't slept a wink the night she came back. No, that wasn't right. If she were really sick, even if they tried to hide it from her, they would have found some excuse to give her medication, some subtle way to treat her. But her life was the same as ever. 3 normal meals a day, fruit, snacks. No medicine at all. Unless there was no point in treating her, and everyone just wanted her to live out her last days happily. Everyone's attitude toward her was the same as always, except Alex had become even clingy. Sophia couldn't stand it anymore. She sat up straight, her expression serious. Husband, is there something wrong with my health? Tell me the truth. I can handle it. What are you talking about? Alex was aghast, his voice sharp. Don't say such ridiculous things. Then why were you looking at me like that? Like what? Like I'm terminally ill and about to die. It was a look of pain mixed with a guilt and self-blame she couldn't understand. Alex had looked at her with pity before, but never with such heart-wrenching agony. It felt as if the sorrow in his eyes would turn into tears at any moment, making her feel the gut-wrenching pain of the final goodbye. He was clearly hurting for her. That's why she had made the terrifying leap to thinking something was wrong with her body. Don't be ridiculous. I was just... Alex began but trailed off. He had lost control for a moment, thinking of the lonely Sophia from his past life who had faded away, and his pain had shown through. And his clever girl had noticed. There was something wrong with her health, but that was in the past life. In this life, with him here, he would never let that tragedy happen again. Sophia jumped off the sofa, her face set in a grim line, and walked toward the door without a word. Alex quickly followed. Sophie, where are you going? To the hospital for a checkup. Sophia suddenly spun around and grabbed his hand. You're coming too. Alex didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Okay, I'll go. But I need to state again for the record. You are perfectly healthy. I am perfectly healthy. We are all perfectly healthy. Don't scare yourself like this. Sophia hesitated. It was true. If something were seriously wrong with her, it was impossible for everyone to act so calmly. But she had to go through with the checkup today. Was she afraid of death? Yes. Ever since finding Alex, Sophia wished for immortality, so she could be with him every single day, forever. The test results came back. Every number on the report confirmed they were in perfect health. Alex gently ruffled Sophia's hair. Feeling better now? Sophia finally realized she had worked herself into a frenzy over a single look from Alex. It was a massive false alarm. Thankfully, her husband wouldn't make fun of her for being terrified of death. She looked at him with a hint of resentment. Husband, from now on, can you please not think about my past for no reason? The next time you look at me like that, I'm still going to think I'm bae. Alex covered her mouth with his hand. How many times do I have to tell you? Don't say such things, he chided. Luckily, he was quick on his feet. He had explained away the look of pain in his eyes by saying he had suddenly remembered the hardships she endured as a child. He genuinely did feel pain for the little girl Sophia had been, so the lie was delivered with heartfelt sincerity, completely fooling her sharp eyes. That's all in the past, Sophia said. And I don't even think it was a big deal, so you shouldn't think I had it so rough. Besides, I've come to terms with it now. All the suffering I went through before was probably just preparation for the happiness I have now. As long as I could meet you, I would go through any amount of hardship, and it wouldn't feel like hardship at all. Most importantly, it's all over. Sophia spoke naturally. These were her truest feelings, not some calculated attempt to appear strong and win his pity and affection. Alex squeezed her hand, his heart filled with 1,000 emotions. She was right. Whether it was the events of his past life or the suffering she endured as a child, it was all over. What mattered now was to cherish and enjoy the present. They stepped out of the hospital, leaving the smell of disinfectant behind, into a world of dazzling lights. Right? They had almost forgotten about dinner. The bustling asphalt roads, the crowded streets, the chorus of car horns and chatter. It all blended into a vibrant tapestry of life. Alex realized then that for the entire summer break, aside from those 2 days for the club activity, his world had consisted of Sophia's mansion and his parents' home. He visited his parents twice a week, and the rest of his time was devoted entirely to Sophia, and he hadn't felt bored or restless for a single moment. That was because she was almost his entire world. Stepping out of that small world and into the noisy crowd felt like a refreshing change of pace. They walked hand in hand through a night market, like any ordinary couple, each holding a cob of roasted corn, eating as they strolled. The air was thick with smoke and a medley of delicious smells. The vendors' energetic calls and the throngs of customers created a lively scene that was a novelty for the young heiress, who was used to high-end, exclusive venues. She laced her fingers through Alex's, completely surrendering herself to his lead. Wherever he took her, she followed. He was in charge of leading the way. She was in charge of looking around and seeing the world. He asked if she wanted roasted corn, and she did. He asked if she wanted grilled squid, and she did. He asked if she wanted cantaloupe, and she did. But when Alex bought a container of extra stinky garlic fries and asked if she wanted any, Sophia announced she was full. Alex looked at the freshly purchased fries, then at Sophia. He had a strong suspicion that she was just making an excuse to avoid eating them without directly refusing him. Since moving in with Sophia, Alex had barely eaten any junk food. Indulging just this once, stimulating his taste buds with a long-lost flavor, felt surprisingly good. Seeing the garlic fry stand, and buoyed by Sophia's willingness to try everything else, he had forgotten to ask for her opinion beforehand. Under the meticulous care of the household cook, Mrs. Helen, Sophia's diet was exceptionally healthy. He couldn't recall her ever eating deep-fried or heavily seasoned street food like this. The grilled squid was probably already a new challenge for her. As for the pungent garlic fries, maybe it wasn't a lack of courage, but simply a lack of interest in trying something with such a distinctive aroma. Of course, there was another possibility. Alex thought with amusement, is Sophia scared of the smell? Was there anything in the world she was afraid of besides him leaving her? What a rare sight. You barely ate anything. You're full already. Sophia pulled his hand and placed it on her stomach. Feel for yourself if you don't believe me. Alex had no qualms about physical contact. They slept in the same bed every night. Talking about propriety now would be ridiculous. He unapologetically placed his hand on her stomach and felt it. Her belly was flat and soft. It was an addictive sensation, but they were in a crowded night market, and keeping his hand on her stomach for too long would be indecent. He pulled it back. It's not sticking out at all. It's still flat. Are you sure you're full? Believe it or not, I can't eat another bite. Alex regretfully picked up a garlic fry with his wooden skewer, clicking his tongue. These are so good. Are you sure you don't want to try one? Sophia shook her head. All right then, I'll eat them, Alex said with a sigh. He brought a crispy, golden brown fry toward his mouth. Sophia's eyes widened, her gaze fixed on his every move. Her tense little expression made Alex suspect that what he was about to eat wasn't a delicious snack, but some deadly poison. A mischievous thought struck him. He felt a sudden urge to tease his cute wife about her aversion to garlic fries. A sin, truly. He suddenly thrust the fry toward her mouth. You want some, don't you? Just eat it. Startled, Sophia took a step back, shaking her head vigorously like a tambourine. No, I don't want any. Alex laughed. She really was scared. Who would have thought that the fearless Sophia Reed could be defeated by a small container of garlic fries? Never had them before? Nope. An I knew it expression crossed Alex's face. You should try them. They smell strong, but they taste amazing. No, I'm really full. I can't eat anything else, Sophia insisted. All right then, Alex didn't push it. Even with his own dear wife, teasing had its limits. If he made her cry with the smell, he'd be the one comforting her. He brought the fry to his own lips again. I'm going to eat it now. Sophia nodded hesitantly. Well, you already bought it. You should eat it if you want to. A wicked grin spread across Alex's face. If I eat this, are you still going to let me kiss you? Sophia was speechless. Before Sophia could answer, Alex made a promise. I swear I'll brush my teeth thoroughly afterward, so there won't be any weird smells left. Then you can kiss me, right? He trailed off, noticing Sophia's eyes staring quizzically past him. No, behind him. Then, she grabbed his arm and pulled him to the side. Alex was confused, but understood she wouldn't do that without a reason. So he followed her lead and ducked out of sight. When a familiar figure came into view, he finally understood. Oh, it was his good friend, Jake Ramirez. And Jake wasn't alone. Walking beside him was a quiet, pretty girl. Alex recognized her, Simon Shaw's sister, June. Well, what have we here? Alex and Sophia, one a talented university student and the other the genius head of a public company, were now furtively tailing two commoners. What would Jake and June think if they knew? Would they be flattered or frightened? It was impossible to say. Perhaps subconsciously, Jake never expected people like Alex and Sophia to frequent such a place. Or perhaps he never imagined that they would be so interested in a little guy like him. Of course, the most likely reason was that Jake was so caught up in the joy of being on a date with a girl he liked that he was oblivious to everything else, not even noticing two suspicious figures trailing them. Jake stopped in front of a grilled chicken wing stand. June, want some wings? June shook her head. No, they're too greasy. He stopped at a rolled ice cream stand. How about some rolled ice cream? June shook her head again. No, it's too cold. Alex face-bombed. It seemed he would have to find some time to give his clueless friend a lesson in dating. When buying things for a girl you weren't officially with, asking for her opinion might work if she had an outgoing personality. But with someone more reserved and introverted like June, she was likely to refuse out of politeness. Fortunately, Jake wasn't completely hopeless. He quickly realized the problem. This time, he didn't ask for June's opinion and simply bought 2 cups of fruit tea. And while he was in line, June bought a serving of crispy, fried tofu. Wait, fried tofu smells pretty good. Alex glanced mournfully at the garlic fries that were still tempting him with their fragrant aroma, then at the even more tempting genius beauty beside him. Without a moment's hesitation, he made his choice. he threw the garlic fries away. Everyone has different tastes. Some people hate onions, others despise cilantro. Some are obsessed with durian, while others gag at the smell. Likes and dislikes are etched into our DNA. They can't be overcome by sheer willpower. Besides, it was just a small container of garlic fries. It wasn't like he absolutely had to eat them. If Sophia was grossed out by it and refused to kiss him for the next few days, that would be a major loss. Sophia's eyes widened in shock as she watched Alex toss the untouched fries into the trash. "Why did you throw them out?" "I suddenly don't feel like eating them," Alex said nonchalantly. Sophia gave him a suspicious look, her eyes filled with a faint, teasing amusement. Alex met her gaze without flinching. She leaned in close and whispered in his ear, "Husband, are you afraid I won't let you kiss me if you eat the garlic fries?" Alex nodded with mock solemnity. "I did have that concern." Sophia's eyes curved into crescents. Her warm breath tickled his ear as she murmured in the gentlest, most indulgent tone, "Don't worry, husband. Even if you eat the garlic fries, I'll still let you kiss me." Alex cast a regretful glance at the garlic fries' final resting place. Sophia took his hand. "If you want them, we can go buy another one." Alex pulled her back, smiling. "I suddenly don't want them anymore. Let's not." As he pulled her along, someone happened to glance their way, their eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. "Alex? Sophie? You guys are here too." Alex clicked his tongue. "Is it really that surprising to see us here?" "Yeah, it's super surprising," Jake exclaimed. "He wanted to say you guys are multimillionaires, CEOs. What are you doing eating street food?" But he bit his tongue. The world of billionaires was too far removed from ordinary people like them. Most of what people knew about the super rich came from TV shows or exaggerated novels. With the rise of the internet, the lavish lifestyles of the wealthy were becoming more visible, but seeing two young, handsome, and incredibly rich people at a humble night market, it was enough to make all the other regular folks enjoying their street food feel inadequate. Alex knew what he was thinking and rolled his eyes. It was one thing for others not to know, but Jake, more than anyone, knew that he had once been a poor kid. Even though he had money now, old habits and ways of thinking lingered. He had no aversion to street food, as long as it was reasonably clean. June walked over and greeted them shyly. She had seen Alex and Sophia at Starbright Market before. Alex seemed warm and approachable, but she was a little intimidated by Sophia, who was clearly younger than her, but possessed an imposing aura that made her hesitant to get close. This was normal. The few people who dared to approach Sophia were those she had personally approved of. Everyone else, whether they knew her or not, was kept at a distance by her aloof demeanor. June smiled timidly, then remembered something and quickly offered the fried tofu in her hands to them. "I just bought this. Would you like some?" Her polite offer put Alex in a slightly awkward position. If he accepted, Sophia wouldn't eat it. If he refused, he might hurt her feelings. Just as Alex was about to politely decline by saying they had just eaten, Jake jumped in. "June, you don't have to be so formal with them. If they want something, they can buy it themselves. We don't need to treat them." He said it in a half-joking tone, easily diffusing any potential awkwardness. But in the next second, he added with a grin, "Just kidding, what do you guys want? It's my treat tonight." He looked at them with puppy dog eyes, as if begging them to give a poor man a chance to show off. It wasn't that Sophia didn't want to give him face, but she was full. And even if she wasn't, she had to stick to her story now, or she'd look like a fool. The street by the Ethel Hotel is paralyzed right now. It's all Area's fans. If it wasn't for the hotel's top-notch security, they probably would have torn the doors down. "I don't think we should even try to go. We'll never get through." Did you hear? The only reason Aria is holding a concert in a third-rate city like Seattle is as a favor to some guy who's chasing her. Aria has tons of suitors. Which one has this honor? And when did this happen? How come I didn't know? The conversation from a nearby table drifted over. Alex and the others paid it no mind, continuing their own discussion about the simple stress relief game Simon Shaw was developing while munching on roasted chestnuts Jake had bought. In his past life, that little game was how Simon had earned his first fortune. He then registered a company and, while still in school, poured his energy into developing a blockbuster game that took the world by storm. In this life, Alex had approached Simon with a utilitarian motive at first, but after getting to know him, their similar values had made them close friends. In both life and business, Alex found subtle ways to help him, avoiding the pitfalls of his past life and putting him on a faster track to success without making him feel like a charity case. After Simon told him his life plan, Alex had immediately pulled Jake in as a partner in Simon's gaming venture. When Simon became a gaming tycoon, they would be his indispensable friends and partners. Friendship and fortune, all in one. Alex couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the Simon of his past life. Before he became famous, someone had recognized his talent and invested in him. But when Simon developed that hit game, his partner had betrayed his trust, trying to push him out and steal the fruits of his labor. Simon eventually fought back and reclaimed what was rightfully his, but his trusting heart was left shattered. Alex considered Simon a true friend, and he would not let him suffer that kind of betrayal again. Their partnership would be a win-win. Alex shelled a roasted chestnut and offered the plump, round nut to Sophia. Sophia, who had insisted multiple times that she was full, reiterated, "I'm really full." Alex leaned in close to her ear and coaxed, "Look, I already peeled it. In front of Jake and June. Give your husband a little face, okay?" So, Sophia obediently opened her mouth and ate the chestnut he fed her. Jake was speechless. Seriously? These two have no shame, showing off their affection right in front of a single guy like me. Isn't that a little cruel? He secretly glanced at June beside him, thinking, when will I be able to be so shamelessly affectionate in public? The revolution was not yet won. Comrade Jake still had work to do. So who is this suitor of Arias? Anyway, the conversation from the other table continued intermittently. According to online rumors, it's the owner of the Ethel Hotel. Sophia's head snapped toward them. The sudden movement startled Alex, Jake, and June. Alex, piecing together what the two people were discussing, was rendered speechless. The owner of the Ethel Hotel. That was him now, and it used to be Sophia. How could either of them possibly be some pop star suitor? Jake sidled up to Alex, whispering in a voice only they could hear, "Hey man, I didn't know Sophie was such a gossip. Is she a fan?" After asking, Jake himself found the idea ridiculous. Aria, real name Christina Sue, was a singer and dancer who had debuted in a girl group. She was known for her sweet image and catchy songs, and had shot to fame with her hit single Every Second Loving You, becoming one of the hottest artists of the moment, hailed by netizens as the new pop princess. Her fans affectionately called her Aria. Recently, she was all over the internet. What she wore, what face wash she used, even the clips in her hair would instantly become trending items. A glamorous celebrity might hold some sway over the general public, but in the world of high finance, they were little more than pawns for making money, some even becoming playthings for the wealthy. And Sophia, she was the capital. So brilliant, so aloof, a woman who had eyes only for Alex. How could she possibly be a fan of a singer who was inferior to her in every way, a product of marketing and auto-tune? Sophia turned her head back, her expression clearly displeased. Jake's soul nearly left his body. Oh no, did she hear me whispering with Alex? He forced a nervous smile. Ah, Alex, Sophie, I just remembered I have something to do. We should get going. He grabbed June's hand and turned to leave, practically fleeing the scene. Only when they were safely away from the night market did Jake belatedly realize that in his panic, he had done something he had wanted to do, but hadn't dared. He had taken June's hand. Back in the bustling market, Sophia's face was like ice. Who is Aria? Her reaction, though he hadn't seen in a while, was familiar to Alex. It was the precursor to the intense possessiveness that flared up whenever she sensed a threat. Alex felt deeply wronged. Who is Aria? Honestly, he had no idea. What? Are you living under a rock? You don't even know who Aria is? Before Alex could even get his denial out, the two people at the next table overheard Sophia's question and immediately became snide. It was clear they were Aria's fans. Brainless fans. Our Aria is so famous. Anyone who says they don't know her is obviously just trying to get attention. Pretending not to know who Aria is to seem all high and mighty and unique. So lame. It's just jealousy because Aria is beautiful and talented and everyone loves her. But no matter how jealous you are, cut the crap. Who is Aria? Sophia stared at the so-called brainless fans, her voice cold. The fan who had been speaking was caught off guard by a pair of emotionless eyes. It was as if she had been suddenly transported to the Antarctic. She shivered involuntarily, an inexplicable fear creeping into her heart. She answered subconsciously, Aria is Christina Sue. Who is Christina Sue? Sophia asked, her patience gone. The fan was on the verge of tears. Christina Sue is. Christina Sue. The fan was having a meltdown. How could someone in this world not know who Christina Sue was? No, that wasn't it. It was, how could there be a girl in this world 100 times more beautiful than Christina Sue? Albeit one with a terrible temper. The fan had a feeling that if she didn't answer obediently, she would be shot on the spot and left for dead in the street. Sophia enunciated each word, her voice frigid. I'm warning you, that Christina whatever is not the girlfriend of the Ethel Hotel's owner. If you spread rumors like that again, I will have your mouths torn off. Her expression and tone weren't overtly aggressive, but they successfully silenced Christina Sue's two brainless fans, leaving them too scared to even breathe. They were inexplicably certain that she wasn't making empty threats. She would absolutely do what she said. Without another word, Sophia grabbed Alex's hand and pulled him away from the night market. The two fans stood frozen, staring at each other. Finally, one of them whispered, shaken, "That was terrifying." "So, the rumors are fake? The owner of the Ethel Hotel isn't pursuing Christina Sue. Who was that girl? Isn't it obvious? She must be connected to the owner of the Ethel." But seriously, she was so much more beautiful than Christina Sue. "It's me. I want to know if a singer named Christina Sue is checked into our hotel." "She's checking in tomorrow? Then why is the street already packed with her fans?" "It was false information released to the media. Cancel her reservation and add her to the Ethel Hotel's blacklist. She is banned from staying at the Ethel for life." After ending the call with the CEO of the Ethel Hotel, the mysterious new owner, Alex Turner, wearily rubbed the soft, fluffy head of the former owner, Sophia Reed. "All right, my dear wife, are you satisfied now?" Sophia's brow did not smooth out after a series of decisive actions. She looked at him, displeased. "Husband, how can you be so merciful? Or are you feeling sorry for that Arya person? You can't bear to be completely ruthless with her." Alex was speechless. At that moment, he felt more wrong than anyone in history. Heaven was his witness. He didn't even know who Christina Sue was. In this life, anyway. Even in his past life, Alex, who never followed the entertainment industry, was vaguely aware of her existence but had never paid her any attention. If it hadn't been for the so-called scoop from two brainless fans at the night market, he wouldn't have even remembered her name. So, how could he possibly feel sorry for someone he didn't even know? Of course, he knew Sophia wasn't truly accusing him. It was just her overwhelming possessiveness taking over, making her words and actions a little irrational. He raised his hands in mock surrender, a white flag in his mind. "Sophie, I was wrong. What do you think I should do?" Or rather, he thought, how should I be completely ruthless with that Christina Sue? Later that night, Alex found himself thinking that being completely ruthless with Christina Sue was, in fact, necessary. Who told her to use his hotel for a publicity stunt, deliberately letting her PR team spread fake news that the mysterious owner of the Ethel Hotel was head over heels for her, would marry no one else, and had even proposed on his knees 3 times. The rumors were sensational, and netizens were eating them up, even believing them. Alex shook his head. Celebrities often resorted to unconventional means to create eye-catching fake news for clout. It was probably standard practice for them. But this Christina Sue had made a fatal mistake. She shouldn't have targeted the owner of the Ethel Hotel, which was to say him. That was like stepping on a tiger's tail. And to be clear, he wasn't calling Sophia a tigress, though in reality, she was 1,000 times more terrifying. Christina Sue's fabricated story both boosted her own appeal and gave her plausible deniability. When a lie was exposed, she could innocently claim it was all just the wild imagination of netizens and had nothing to do with her. Sophia was lying on her stomach on the bed, her hair unbound, scrolling through her phone. A picture of a female singer with a diamond-studded microphone, striking a pose with a manufactured smile, appeared on the screen. "This is Christina Sue," she sneered. "Tacky." Alex lay down beside her, stroking her cheek. "You're right. Utterly tacky. Compared to my Sophie, it's like heaven and earth." He frowned and lightly slapped his own mouth in mock punishment. "I should be shot. How could I compare someone like that to my beloved wife?" Sophia rolled over into his arms, her voice laced with venom. "You should be." Alex knew what that meant. Someone was about to have a very bad time. The consequences of upsetting Sophia were severe, and trying to steal her man, even in a fake rumor, made the problem 1,000,000 times worse. The stories the PR team had spun were so vivid they had all but labeled the Ethel Hotel's owner a sycophantic devotee of Christina Sue. Even Alex, the broad-minded subject of the rumors, found it ridiculous, let alone Sophia, who wouldn't tolerate anyone even breathing in his direction. Alex threaded his fingers through Sophia's soft hair. "Let me handle this." The next afternoon, at the entrance of the Ethel Hotel, entertainment reporters who had set up their cameras and live-streaming equipment since morning, and fans who had gathered for a glimpse of their idol, the queen of clout, the contemporary pop princess Christina Sue, finally saw a Maybach pull up to the curb. The crowd erupted. Dozens of bodyguards in black suits and sunglasses imposingly maintained order, clearing a path for the incredibly popular pop star. The owner of the Ethel is really going all out. He arranged all these bodyguards just for Arya. Oh my God, it's like a real-life CEO romance novel. I totally ship it. What are you talking about? Arya hasn't accepted his proposal, you know? She's too good for that. She deserves all the love in the world. The fans chattered excitedly. The Maybach came to a smooth stop at the hotel entrance. A bodyguard opened the door, and the glamorous Christina Sue, wearing a black face mask, stepped out to a chorus of shrieks. She smiled and waved at her fans as the Ethel's front desk manager walked out to meet her. Immediately, some fans grew discontented. Why is it just the front desk manager greeting our Arya? With her status, the CEO should be here to welcome her personally. Exactly. This is so disrespectful. No wonder Arya hasn't accepted the owner's proposal. He has no class. At the same time, livestream cameras focused on Christina Sue, broadcasting the scene to thousands of viewers. The front desk manager's words were transmitted loud and clear to everyone watching. I'm sorry, Miss Sue, but you were banned from staying at this hotel. Even Arya herself froze for a split second. The Ethel Hotel was the most exclusive, most secure establishment in Seattle, the first choice for the city's elite visitors. Staying at the Ethel, or more accurately, being able to afford the Ethel, had become a symbol of status. As a pop star at the height of her fame, it was only natural for Christina Sue, known professionally as Arya, to stay at the Ethel during her Seattle concert tour. It was part of maintaining her diva image. Her assistant reacted quickly, frowning at the front desk manager. What did you just say? Could you please repeat that for everyone here? The question was laced with a barely veiled threat. The Ethel's influence was confined to Seattle, but Arya's fans were nationwide. The hotel should have been grateful for the publicity and exposure she brought. For them to deny her entry was practically suicidal. Annoying her fan base would have serious consequences. The manager maintained a professional smile. Due to Ms. Christina Sue authorizing others to publish disrespectful, inappropriate, and entirely fabricated statements online regarding our owner, this hotel has permanently blacklisted Ms. Sue. She will not be permitted to stay here for life. The declaration sent a shockwave through the lobby and the livestream chat. A cacophony of arguments, discussions, and speculation erupted. The news that the pop diva had been blacklisted by the Ethel immediately shot to the top of trending topics. Back at the Reed estate, Alex Turner calmly knelt by the koi pond with Sophia, feeding the fish as if nothing was happening, though he occasionally glanced at his phone for the latest updates. As online sleuths dug deeper, the figures behind Arya began to surface. Alex was surprised to find that this wasn't as simple as he'd first thought. A man who wasn't even worthy of being called his rival had reappeared on his radar. Trevor Gow. Sophia had given Alex full authority to handle the situation, calling it an exercise for her kind-hearted, innocent husband. But for Alex, it was a significant breakthrough in their relationship. Sophia was finally acknowledging and accepting his growth, his strength. This shift was thanks to Sophia's timely adjustment and perspective, but was also inextricably linked to Alex's own efforts, and that wasn't just in boasting. Professionally, Alex didn't mind Sophia's involvement. She had been following his joint project with Orion Enterprises from the start. He had discussed his plans to launch a gaming company with Jake Ramirez and Simon Shaw with her. As for his private life, what private life? Every move he made was under her watchful eye. Besides, they had been together for so long. If he still couldn't make her feel secure in his devotion, then he would consider himself a failure. Thanks to the massive user base of TikTok and Arya's own considerable following, the story exploded. The Ethel Hotel didn't just blacklist Arya for the malicious, fabricated rumors about its owner. It also issued a public demand. Arya had 2 days to make a public apology, or the hotel would file a defamation lawsuit. The situation reached a fever pitch. Photos and videos of a furious Arya storming out of the Ethel and checking into a lesser hotel went viral. Online, public opinion was sharply divided. During the 2-day waiting period, Alex, one of the unwilling protagonists at the center of the storm, went about his life completely unfazed. No one knew he was the owner of the Ethel. In the public eye, he was cloaked in invisibility, untouchable. Arya, confident in her backing, had no intention of apologizing. As the deadline approached, her fans grew more aggressive, their sheer numbers overwhelming the voices of reason supporting the Ethel. If Alex couldn't see that this was a coordinated campaign, he might as well go back to being Sophia's sheltered-kept man. The way things had escalated was, he had to admit, amusing. Last year, Mason Gow, in a fit of pique, had tried to get back at Caleb Harlan by messing with Alex. That move had infuriated Sophia, costing the Gow family their partnership with the Harlans and resulting in massive losses. With the Harlans holding leverage over them, The Gaos didn't dare retaliate, but they needed an outlet for their frustration. It was during that unlucky streak that Trevor Gao, in a foul mood, had verbally abused a female server at the Ethel, bringing her to tears. The Ethel might subscribe to the customer is always right philosophy, but that only applied if the customer was acting like a human being. They hadn't coddled the Gao family heir. They had thrown him out that night and blacklisted him for life. It was a humiliation Trevor would never forget. Now, with his family's fortunes on the rise after securing a powerful new connection, Trevor was riding high. With success, money, and a beautiful woman on his arm, he decided it was time for revenge to wipe away that old shame. So when his new girlfriend, who had a habit of buying her way onto trending topics, announced her Seattle concert, an idea struck him. He would orchestrate a huge PR stunt around the fiction that the Ethel's owner was his new girlfriend's sycophantic admirer. If the owner didn't respond, Trevor had a bigger, more disgusting move planned. He wanted a reaction. That way, he could weaponize his girlfriend's massive fan base to destroy the Ethel's reputation. Before launching his attack, Trevor had done his homework. He confirmed the Ethel had no ties to the Harlan family. Furthermore, it was a standalone hotel, not a national chain. He concluded that its owner was just some local big shot, powerful in Seattle, but insignificant elsewhere. The Ethel was no match for the Gao family's current influence. With that, Trevor confidently launched his assault, ignoring the few who advised him to be rational and leave the Ethel alone. As the two-day deadline neared, he had Aria release a defiant statement, accusing the hotel's owner of being a coward who wouldn't own up to his actions, further escalating the conflict. He had no idea that the Ethel's owner, far from being angry, was comfortably resting his head on his wife's lap, letting her feed him pieces of fruit as he calmly spoke into his phone, issuing a single command. Just as he finished, another call came in. "Hey, Mom, Grandma's here. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Okay, I get it. I'm on my way." As fate would have it, Michael and Emily Turner had driven out to the countryside yesterday. They had convinced the old woman to come to Seattle for a checkup and to stay for a few days. But their guest was anxious about her chickens and ducks back home, insisting that her own humble cottage was better than any mansion. Unless, she joked, they could put her up in a palace. She'd stay 2 days tops, then she was going home. It was an offhand remark, a joke. And the result? Her daughter and son-in-law were now leading her to a real-life palace. A palace that just happened to be the Ethel Hotel, the current epicenter of a media firestorm. As the owner of the Ethel, wasn't it perfectly normal for Alex to give his parents a complimentary VIP card? But Michael and Emily already had their own beautiful villa, where they lived a quiet, leisurely life. They had no reason to stay at a hotel, so they'd tossed the card in a drawer and forgotten about it. It was only when Alex's grandmother made her joke about wanting to stay in a palace that they remembered it. Michael and Emily didn't follow celebrity gossip or spend much time online, so they were completely oblivious to the drama surrounding the Ethel. They didn't know that a few extremist fans had traveled all the way to Seattle just to throw eggs at the hotel entrance. The Ethel had beefed up its security and promptly handed the offenders over to the police, which had deterred other brainless fans from trying anything similar. Still, Alex was worried his parents and grandmother might get caught in the crossfire, so he and Sophia rushed over. Oh my, this place is huge. It's so beautiful, just like a palace." Alex's grandmother beamed, her eyes wide as she took in the magnificent, gilded architecture. After a moment of admiration, she patted Alex's hand. "All right, I've seen the world now. Let's go, let's go." Alex laughed. "Go where? You said you wanted to stay in a palace, didn't you? You're staying here tonight." Emily chimed in with a grin. "That's right. You stay, and I'll stay with you." She glanced at Sophia and whispered complainingly, "You know, honey, a hotel this grand. How about you just give it away?" It was so impulsive. It was just like the villa she and Michael lived in. A gift from Sophia that had left them feeling dizzy and disoriented for days. Fortunately, the two kids had a wonderful relationship, one that seemed destined to last. But who could ever be certain about matters of the heart? They were so young, not even old enough to get married. And yet, for some reason, perhaps because of the way they looked at each other, their eyes filled with nothing but pure, unadulterated love. Everyone around them was inexplicably certain that Alex and Sophia would remain steadfastly by each other's side until the end of time. Emily and Michael genuinely adored Sophia, treating her like their own daughter. They had become a close-knit family, completely sidestepping the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law drama that plagued so many others. It hadn't taken them long to move from unease to acceptance of Sophia's generosity. They were family, after all, and keeping score would only create distance. Still, learning that Sophia had simply gifted such an opulent hotel to their son letting him be a thoroughly kept man, had been a shock. More than that, they were touched by Sophia's complete trust in them. From another perspective, wasn't this proof that she had entrusted herself completely to their son, that she saw herself as part of their family? Emily was deeply moved, but she couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety for Sophia. That sweet girl, she thought, how could she spoil someone so completely? It was a good thing the person she was spoiling was their son, a man of impeccable character and looks. Sophia puffed out her cheeks in mock frustration. Emily, we've known each other for so long, and you're still being so formal with me? There's no yours or mine between Alex and me. A few feet away, Alex was already leading his astonished grandmother toward the Ethel's main entrance. Michael followed with a cheerful grin, trying to persuade his mother-in-law. It's okay, Mom. Just relax and stay the night here. His grandmother looked regretful. Oh, for heaven's sake, why are you two taking me so seriously? Your house is so big we can't even use all the rooms. Why would I need to stay somewhere else? Let's go home. Then she muttered her true thoughts under her breath. How much does one night here even cost? Don't be ridiculous. We're going home. Just as Alex was about to try again, a jarring voice cut in from behind them. TSK. It's only been 2 days, and the Ethel is already so desperate for business that it's lowering its standards to cater to common folk. Alex turned to see a familiar face, Trevor Gow. With his nose in the air, Trevor paid no attention to the group of commoners. He strode forward and spoke arrogantly to the hotel CEO, who was coming out to greet them. Get your owner out here. I have something to say to him. The CEO, however, didn't even glance at him. He walked right past Trevor, his focus fixed straight ahead. What? Trevor thought. Didn't he come out to welcome me? The Ethel situation is getting worse by the minute. He watched, dumbfounded, as the CEO respectfully greeted the group of ordinary-looking people. It was only then that he recognized 2 faces in the crowd that still haunted him. Sophia Reed, the illegitimate daughter of the Harlan family, the exquisite woman he still couldn't forget, and Alex Turner, the treasure of Sophia's heart. Trevor's scalp tingled as his eyes met Alex's faintly smiling ones. He suddenly remembered a call from last night. Caleb Harlan had warned him not to mess with the Ethel. Is the Harlan family getting involved in this? Trevor had asked through clenched teeth. Caleb's answer had been clear. We're not. But for Mason's sake, I'd advise you. Then you can spare me the trouble, Mr. Harlan. Trevor, satisfied with the answer, had lost his patience and hung up. The Gow family would never have anything to do with the Harlans again. But now, a wave of unease washed over him. He had always assumed Sophia was a Harlan, but her last name was Reed. The Harlans might not be involved, but that didn't mean she wouldn't be. Sophia Reed, the one who wasn't a Harlan by name, was the one who now controlled Harlan Corp. She held the real power. This was even worse than the Harlans getting involved. A cold dread crept up his spine. Her? What is her relationship with the Ethel? Alex gave him a pitying smile, the kind you give a clown. Mr. Gow, I gave you a chance. It's a shame you didn't take it. Sophia's icy stare and Alex's mocking tone sent a cold sweat down Trevor's back. Oblivious to the drama, Alex's grandmother looked at the pale young man with concern. Young man, are you all right? If you're not feeling well, you should exercise more. Look how strong my grandson is. He runs every day. Alex chimed in with a smile. That's right, Grandma. I work out every single day. Trevor stumbled back to his car. His assistant immediately delivered another piece of terrible news. Mr. Gow, sir, the internet has exploded. Trevor glanced at the headlines on his phone, and his eyes rolled back. He collapsed against the seat, his face ashen, barely breathing. Before he lost consciousness, 2 words flashed through his mind. It's over. Online, explicit videos of him and Arya were everywhere. Though the critical parts were pixelated, the high-definition footage left no doubt as to the identity of the 2 participants. Fueled by Arya's celebrity status, the video spread like a super virus, reaching every corner of the country. If he could, Trevor would have stayed unconscious forever. But his considerate assistant, in a panic, pinched the nerve below his nose, jolting him awake. Heartbroken and defeated, he looked through the car window and saw a discreet Range Rover pull up to the Ethel's entrance. It wasn't the car that was discreet, but the man sitting inside, a truly formidable figure. Even if his grandmother was too worried about causing trouble and refused to stay, it didn't matter. Since they were already here, Alex figured he would ask Sophia to give his parents, who had never been inside, a tour. He turned back and walked over with a smile to greet the middle-aged man who had just stepped out of the SUV. Their relaxed posture and familiar tone made it clear their relationship was a strong one. Trevor couldn't catch his breath and nearly fainted again. Walter Pierce. Everyone knew Walter Pierce's latest investment project was in Seattle, but he hadn't partnered with any of the local giants, not even Harlan Corp. Instead, he'd chosen a small, unknown company. The business world was buzzing with curiosity about Pierce's new partner, but the person remained incredibly low-key, avoiding the spotlight, so information was scarce. Seeing the old and young man walk into the hotel together, it all clicked for Trevor. Walter Pierce's new partner was Alex Turner. Fear, jealousy, and a dozen other emotions tangled inside him. Trevor couldn't take it anymore. His eyes rolled back, and this time he truly passed out. No matter how frantically his assistant tried to revive him, he didn't wake up and was rushed to the hospital. On the same day, the scandalous video ended the pop diva's career and put Trevor Gow in the emergency room. Both parties received court summonses. That same day, Orion Enterprises' official Twitter account posted a picture of Walter Pierce checking into the Ethel Hotel. At such a critical moment, the post was thick with meaning. Anyone with half a brain could see the silent warning. The Ethel Hotel is under our protection. So, honey, what score are you going to give me on this assignment? The moment they got home that evening, Alex transformed into a clingy puppy, eagerly asking Sophia for his grade. Sophia sat on the sofa, feigning deep thought. Let's see. Judging by the results, that Aria person who built her fame on lies is now a social pariah. Her concert is canceled. Her endorsements are dropped. Her career is over. The scandal's impact on the Gow family has been catastrophic. Their stock has tanked, and they've decided to remove Trevor as the heir. He'll be exiled abroad to lay low. He's finished too, and as the victim, the Ethel Hotel used this opportunity to boost its profile and win public sympathy. Plus, there was an unexpected bonus: Uncle Walter's public support. All in all, the Ethel came out way ahead. Husband, Sophia said with a proud smile, it's a shame the test is only out of 100 because I'd give you 200. You truly are the man I chose. You were amazing. Alex feigned modesty. Not at all. It was all thanks to your incredible team. Sophia's team was filled with exceptionally talented people. Hacking Aria's computer and finding the X-rated videos was child's play for them. Sophia accepted his compliment with grace. Her husband wasn't just flattering her. He was speaking the truth. What's yours am I? Sophia cleared her throat, putting on a mock stern expression. Since my husband performed so brilliantly, come here. I have a reward for you. She patted her lap. Resting his head on her lap was a daily privilege for Alex. But when Sophia framed it as a reward, it still filled him with a thrill of anticipation. He obediently sat down next to her, then slowly eased himself down until his head was resting on her thighs. Sophia, fresh from a shower, was wearing a pair of soft pajama shorts, revealing her long, pale legs. They looked so tender Alex wanted to take a bite. Sometimes he did, pretending to nibble, and she would always laugh and gently tap him, complaining that it tickled. He never dared to use any force. Her skin was like porcelain. What started as a bite would always turn into a loving kiss. Sophia ran her slender fingers through his short hair, her fingertips brushing against his scalp, sending a pleasant, tingling sensation through him. In their quiet moments together, she often played with his hair like this. Sometimes, in a fit of playfulness, she would find small rubber bands and tie his hair into tiny pigtails all over his head. The sight of himself in the mirror, covered in what looked like dozens of tiny antennae, made him laugh, but seeing her rolling on the sofa, clutching her stomach in delight, made it all worth it. It was his job to spoil his wife. He would let her tie his hair in pigtails or even draw turtles all over his face, as long as it made her happy. Alex suspected his hair had become her favorite toy. She would comb it, brush it, and run her fingers through it, never seeming to tire of the game. He was beginning to think she had counted every single strand on his head. Under Sophia's gentle touch, enveloped in the faint, pleasant scent of her body wash, a wave of drowsiness washed over him. His eyelids grew heavy, and before he knew it, he had drifted off to sleep. In the silence, Sophia's movements paused. She looked down in surprise and saw Alex, his eyes closed, his breathing deep and even. A soft laugh escaped her. Sleep well, my dear husband. A sense of peace and contentment filled her. She had the quiet life she'd always wanted, with the person she loved right by her side. It was unbelievable that the life she had dreamed of was now firmly in her grasp. Sophia gently placed one hand on Alex's face and the other on his back. Leaning against the sofa, she closed her eyes in satisfaction. Her legs were pinned beneath his head, but she felt no discomfort. Feeling his weight and warmth, she knew that even if she had to sit on the couch all night, it wouldn't be a punishment. It would be a new and interesting kind of reward. After a while, though, she grew dissatisfied. How could her husband sleep with his back to her? With gentle, careful movements, she shifted his body until his face was turned toward her flat stomach. Only then was she content. Cradling his head, she fell into a deep sleep. When she opened her eyes again, she stared at the ceiling in a daze. Then, remembering something, she reached out to her side, her hand accidentally brushing against a particularly sensitive spot. Alex had woken up in the middle of the night to find himself asleep on Sophia's lap. A wave of guilt washed over him. His heavy head must have made her legs go numb. And even then, the gentle soul she was, she hadn't wanted to wake him, choosing instead to sit uncomfortably on the sofa until she, too, fell asleep from exhaustion. My fault. My fault. Alex repeated to himself as he carefully lifted the sleeping girl from the sofa and carried her to their bed. He fell back into a drowsy state. In that hazy space between sleep and wakefulness, he felt a sudden touch on a sensitive area. An unbearable current shot through him. Alex rolled over and kissed her without a second thought. Sophia's initial sleepy panic at not seeing him beside her vanished instantly, replaced by a surging tide of love that enveloped her completely. Her empty soul was filled. Dawn was breaking. Summer had arrived early this year. Short sleeves came out in early May, and the relentless heat didn't break until a heavy downpour at the end of August finally brought relief. The overnight storm left the garden strewn with fallen leaves and petals. A cool, damp breeze swept through, carrying a certain kind of poignant beauty. The Turners' garden at their villa was just as lush, and Michael and Emily, who insisted on doing everything themselves without help, had a busy day of cleanup ahead of them. Sophia crouched down, staring intently at a rain-slicked leaf on the ground. Alex finished his 5 laps around the yard, lifted the white towel from around his neck to wipe away the sweat, and bent over, hands on his knees. "What are you looking at so intently?" "Aunt's moving house," she replied with childlike curiosity. She stood up and handed him the water bottle she'd prepared. He took it and downed half of it in one go. "The seasons are changing," Sophia said. "I had some new clothes sent over to your parents today." Alex just smiled. Every time the seasons changed, Sophia would arrange for a delivery of new clothes to his parents' villa. Each piece was custom-made by a world-renowned designer, one of a kind. At first, his parents had worried about when they would ever wear so many clothes, but now they were used to it. Sophia didn't just send gifts to them. She sent them to his grandmother, his uncle, and his aunt, though she was more restrained with them, not wanting to overwhelm them with her generosity. A couple of drops of water escaped as Alex drank, tracing a path from his chin down his healthy, tanned skin to the hollow of his collarbone. Sophia reached out and traced his collarbone, then the prominent line of his Adam's apple. A strange thought occurred to Alex. It was as if these parts of him belonged to her, and she was just generously loaning them to him for the time being. He didn't belong to himself. Every inch of his body, everything he was belonged to Sophia. He didn't find this unfair in the slightest, because, in turn, everything that was hers also belonged to him. He could just as casually play with her long hair, touch her small face, or any other part of her. Alex held the bottle to Sophia's lips, and she took a couple of sips. The sound of footsteps approached. Charles Harrington appeared, his gaze lowered. "Miss Sophia, you have a visitor." Without a moment's thought, Sophia said, "I'm going out today. I'm not seeing anyone." Her schedule for the day was to go on a date with her husband, even though they were together every day. Then dinner at his parents' villa, hang out there for a while, and then home for a shower and bed. A packed day. There was no time for visitors. She wouldn't see them. She was so willfully dismissive, she didn't even bother to ask who it was. The so-called date was nothing more than leaving the house to walk hand in hand with Alex. A simple public display of affection. It sounded boring, but Sophia reveled in it. As long as her husband was with her, everything was interesting. She wanted to try everything. Today, they were going hiking. The mountains near Seattle weren't particularly majestic or famous, just ordinary peaks. The city had built parks, a zoo, and museums around them, creating a unique local landscape. From a distance, they could see the cable cars gliding slowly up the mountainside. At the foot of the mountain was a large peach orchard, a popular spot for photos when the blossoms were in bloom. A stone path snaked its way up to the summit. The early autumn breeze was cool and refreshing. Alex rolled up his sleeves, feigning a sprinter's start. "Honey, if you get tired, just let me know. I'll carry you up." Sophia shot him a sideways glance. "Don't underestimate me," she said, and started up the path ahead of him. The two of them ascended the stone steps. Perhaps spurred on by Alex's challenge, Sophia stayed consistently 3 or 4 steps ahead of him. Alex willingly lagged behind, following her at a steady pace. Though she could be lazy at times, unlike Alex, who exercised daily, her physical fitness was not to be underestimated. Anyone who could survive Edward Vance's brutal training was no amateur. Halfway up, they came to a small pavilion. Alex suggested they sit and rest. Sophia turned, looking down at him from her higher vantage point. "Husband, are you tired?" she teased. "Don't worry, you can be honest. I won't laugh at you." Alex raised an eyebrow, met her challenging gaze, and climbed 2 more steps. In one swift motion, he hoisted her onto his shoulder, straightened his back, and continued up the mountain. "Not only am I not tired," he declared proudly, "I can carry you all the way to the top without breaking a sweat." With her head hanging down, Sophia could see the steep, overgrown ravine beside the path. She surrendered. "Put me down, quick." They were halfway up a mountain, not on flat ground. She didn't dare struggle. What if she made him lose his balance? "No, don't think that." Alex chuckled. "First, tell me if I'm strong or not. I'm going to bite you, you know. Why would you reward me for no reason?" Sophia was speechless. How had he developed such a thick skin behind her back? She fell silent. Alex held her by the legs. His shoulder wasn't as comfortable as his arms. It was hard and pressed into her stomach, but it was a novel experience, and she didn't find it unbearable. Her ponytail hung upside down, swaying with his movements. Her view consisted of her own happily swinging hair, the white hem of Alex's shirt, and his but in a pair of light-colored jeans. Sophia glanced behind them. No one was there. A wicked grin spread across her face. Her little hand slapped his rear. "Giddy up," she commanded. "Giddy up." Alex was once again speechless. After patting Alex's but for a while, Sophia quickly found new game. She lifted the hem of his shirt and tried to pinch his lean waist. Unfortunately, his muscles were too firm. She couldn't get a good grip. "Oomph, my husband is a bully, and so are his muscles." But even though she failed to pinch him, the tickling sensation of her fingers made Alex instinctively tighten his core. Sophia was light, but carrying another person up a mountain was still more strenuous than hiking alone. Of course, that wasn't a reason to put her down. He was more worried that keeping her head down for too long would be uncomfortable. Carrying her on his back would probably be better. He heard voices from behind them. A couple was slowly catching up. The woman's eyes widened when she saw Alex gently setting Sophia down. She immediately turned to her boyfriend, panting dramatically. "My legs are so sore. I can't walk anymore." The boyfriend, equally out of breath, looked exasperated. "If you can't walk, then let's rest for a bit. We can keep going later." That clearly wasn't the answer she wanted. "You're so useless," she snapped. Sophia stifled a laugh. She let Alex take her hand and whispered playfully, "You're so bad, husband. If you had put me down before they saw us, you wouldn't have caused them to fight." Just then, the frustrated boyfriend's voice carried up to them. "You got some nerve. Look at your size, and then look at her. They're not the same." Alex's eyes danced with amusement as he looked at Sophia. "See, honey, it's all your fault for being so slender." They shared a smile and quickened their pace, leaving the escalating argument behind them. By the time they reached the summit, they were both a little out of breath. Alex held Sophia's hand tightly as they walked forward. A small temple had been built on the peak. Some people were lighting incense with reverence, while others wandered around casually. Stone tables and benches were scattered outside, where a few people were resting. Alex led Sophia to a rare, empty spot. Just as he was about to sit, she stopped him. "Wait." She pulled a wet wipe from her bag, cleaned the stone bench, and said, "Okay, sit." Alex plopped down without hesitation. There was only one bench. What to do? Simple. The moment he sat down, he pulled Sophia onto his lap. Problem solved. Besides, even if there had been another seat, he wouldn't have let her sit there. Stone benches were cold and hard. His precious wife deserved better. His lap was much more comfortable. Sophia comfortably enjoyed her husband's doting care. She took out a bottle of water, twisted the cap open, and though her own throat was parched, she turned and held it to Alex's lips first. Only after he had taken a few sips did she drink herself, and after a couple of sips, she offered it to him again. With the simple act of drinking water, they force-fed a massive dose of saccharine romance to everyone nearby. Sophia loved these blatant public displays of affection. Alex wrapped his arms around her, their faces close, whispering intimately as if they were the only two people in the world. "Tired? Not at all. You're still catching your breath, and you say you're not tired? Like you're breathing any easier." As they bantered, Alex noticed a middle-aged woman in a bucket hat sitting diagonally across from them, quietly observing them. At first, he didn't think much of it. When he was alone, no one paid him much attention. But when he was with Sophia, they always turned heads. He was used to it, but the woman kept glancing their way, perhaps finding their shameless public affection a bit much. Alex, however, thought their interactions were perfectly normal for a couple. There was no way they were going to tone it down. Besides, every couple was affectionate. Theirs was just a bit sweeter than most, maybe not suitable for diabetics, but certainly not indecent. But this woman's gaze lingered far longer than a normal passerby's. Usually, people who were drawn in by the attractive couple would look away after a moment out of politeness. So, Alex couldn't help but look back at her. The woman was elegant, with a quiet and graceful demeanor. Even in her simple clothes, she exuded an air of refined upbringing. He was struck by a sense of familiarity in her features. Their eyes met. The woman didn't look away. She offered him a gentle, kind smile, which for a fleeting moment made Alex feel as if she were a dear, long-time family friend. He quickly concluded that she meant them no harm. Sophia, her head resting on his shoulder with her eyes closed in a mock nap, hadn't noticed anything. Who is she? Alex wondered. I'm craving the lasagna your mom makes, Sophia said suddenly. I'll let her know. Why do you spoil me so much? Who else would I spoil? It's one thing for you to spoil me, but you've got your parents doing it too. Aren't you afraid I'll get completely ruined? It's fine. My mom said she always dreamed of having a daughter. You made her dream come true. Who else would she spoil? They spoke in low voices, their words a private secret. From the outside, all anyone could see was a scene of cloying intimacy. Through the gaps in the leaves, they could see the blue sky, and below, dozens of canoes drifting on a large lake. When Alex's eyes met the woman's again, it suddenly clicked. He finally realized who she reminded him of, and he was stunned. Ethan and Caleb Harlan had different personalities, but their faces were quite similar. He thought they must both take after their mother. The woman looked down, plucked a fallen leaf from her lap, and said softly, "Time flies." The little girl from back then has grown into such a poised young woman. Sophia, who had only had eyes for Alex, stiffened slightly and turned to look. The confusion in her eyes slowly dissipated as she took in the woman's serene smile. The woman sighed. It's amazing. You look so much like your mother, but your spirit, your whole aura, it's as if there's no connection to her at all. Sophia, who had been lazily leaning against Alex, sat up straight, her gaze fixed on the woman. It's been years, she said with a soft snort. You're still alive and well. It was not a friendly greeting. The woman had approached her with a tone and expression completely devoid of hostility, like an elder inquiring after a junior. Sophia's response was, by any measure, rude. Yet, the woman didn't seem offended, showing the tolerance of an elder toward the young. Her smile deepened. Your temper hasn't changed much. Her gaze drifted to Alex. You have better taste than your mother. Alex, caught off guard by the compliment, was silent. Sophia stood up from Alex's lap, her expression a mix of haughty pride and restrained power. Of course, I am me, and she is she. In the future, please don't compare me to someone who treated trash like treasure. I don't like it. Before the woman could reply, she added, but you've got a good eye. My husband really is the best man in the world. Alex, praised by two women in a row, was once again speechless. The woman, Eleanor Harlan, who had just been insulted by Sophia's double-edged comment, struggled to maintain her elegant smile. Catherine had treated that man like treasure, but hadn't she once cherished his false affections as the most precious thing in the world? She forced a self-deprecating smile. It's not easy to get a meeting with you, so I had to resort to this. I hope you can understand. Alex suddenly realized Eleanor must have been the visitor from this morning, the one Sophia had refused to see. Undeterred, she had followed them all the way to the top of the mountain. What is it? Sophia asked casually, making it clear she didn't consider Eleanor particularly important. Eleanor quickly composed herself, her smile returning to its calm state. It's nothing major. I just felt I should see you. You haven't been to the office much lately, so I was left with little choice. Sophia scoffed. What's there to see? Their conversation made Alex realize they had met before. A wife who thought she was beloved, and the daughter born from her husband's affair with his mistress. What a deadly confrontation that must have been, especially when the company that should have gone to her own sons was now controlled by the mistress's daughter, leaving her sons and her entire family at her mercy. No one could accept such a situation, especially not someone as proud as Eleanor Harlan, who came from a family of scholars. But she had endured it, or rather, she had finally moved on from her husband's betrayal and was able to face the person who once represented the most painful, unjust part of her existence. After Victor Harlan's death, she had returned for the funeral and, at her son's request, postponed her plans to go abroad again. Her hands unconsciously clutched the small black handbag on her lap. Her smile was one of release. I came to thank you. Sophia found this amusing. Thank me for what? While she hadn't completely destroyed the Harlan family, if it weren't for her, Edward Vance would never have targeted them. In the natural course of things, the entire corporation would have eventually ended up in Ethan's hands. Because of Caleb. A look of guilt for her younger son crossed Eleanor's face. He was frail as a child, so we were more lenient with him. We didn't discipline him with the same strictness we used with his older brother. Then, I went abroad and stopped looking after him. His personality became wild and reckless. I bear a great deal of responsibility for that. But since I've been back, I've seen that he's changed so much. And Ethan, too. In short, thank you. Eleanor was thanking Sophia for getting her youngest son back on the right path, and for slowly returning control of the company to her eldest son, though Eleanor knew full well that with Sophia's abilities, she could take back power at any moment. But the fact that she was willing to cede control showed she had little interest in the Harlan family. As long as they behaved, the current peace could be maintained. And, even knowing that Sophia's actions were driven by her own agenda, Eleanor still had to thank her for getting rid of that woman. Eleanor was an intelligent woman with a strong moral compass. As much as Sophia's existence bothered her, after learning about Sophia's childhood, she had to admit the girl was pitiful. If she hadn't been her husband's illegitimate daughter, Eleanor, who had no daughters of her own, would have wanted to cherish her. A tragic childhood might have given Sophia a reason to seek revenge on everyone involved. Yet, when she gained terrifying power, she remained rational. At the very least, she had limited the scope of her revenge, not extending it to the innocent people caught in the crossfire. People like her two sons and herself. Eleanor realized that while the man and his mistress were despicable, a good shoot had somehow grown from a rotten bamboo. This child was not bad at her core. At first, Eleanor hadn't believed her faithful husband could betray her. Not until a woman showed up at her door with a quiet, beautiful little girl, flaunting her victory. She secretly had a DNA test done with the girl's and her husband's hair. The brutal truth made her world spin. She went to the woman's apartment and found the little girl peering out through a crack in the door. They stared at each other in silence for a long time. Then, Eleanor had uttered the most vicious curse she could muster. "Why don't you and your homewrecker mother just die?" It was the most venomous thing the well-bred woman had ever said in her life. The little girl looked at her steadily, then broke into a grin. "I don't know about other people, but you're an adult, and I'm a child. You'll definitely die before me." "Buffed, you really said that back then?" "Yes." She must have been furious. Alex's tone was gleeful, but inside, he felt sympathy for Eleanor. In the end, she had never hurt anyone. Like Sophia, she was a victim. No, she just glared at me with a dim look in her eyes, then turned and left. After that, Sophia never saw her again. Until today. Alex sighed. Sophia and the Harlans, Sophia and Ethan and Caleb, and even Sophia and Eleanor, the very people who should never have been able to reconcile, had in some strange way found peace. Life was slowly moving in the best possible direction. Time flowed on. Alex and Sophia continued their quiet, happy life day after day. On the surface, each day was the same. In reality, each day had its own sweetness, and after one day ended, they were still filled with anticipation for the next. The days seemed to repeat, yet each held its own unique warmth and small romantic moments. However, fates differ. While Alex and Sophia were inseparable, someone else was being tormented by a budding romance that had tragically withered before it could even begin. The autumn rain was a dreary drizzle, a perfect match for a certain someone's mood. Alex had just woken from a nap. Sophia, not quite ready to wake up, shifted restlessly in his arms, letting out a soft, animal-like whimper as she pressed his head back into the crook of her neck, urging him to sleep a little longer. Alex wasn't sleepy anymore, but he instantly surrendered, content to linger in the sweet, warm haven of her embrace. The peace, however, was short-lived. Someone had to ruin the moment. "Who is it?" Sophia opened her eyes, annoyed. She reached for Alex's phone on nightstand, glanced at the caller ID, and huffed. "What does Jake Ramirez want now?" Her words were sharp, but her heart was soft. She grumbled, but answered the call. Jake's frantic voice immediately burst from the speaker. "Alex, June is gone. I've looked everywhere, and I can't find her. Can you help me?" In Sophia's arms, Alex's eyes shot open. Jake's voice wasn't just panicked. It sounded like he was about to cry. Knowing Jake, that meant things were serious. He took the phone. "What exactly happened?" I don't have time to explain. It's over between us. It has to be." This time, Jake really was crying. "I'm worried something happened to her. She's not at home, and Simon doesn't know where she is either. Alex, you and Sophie can do anything. Please, help me find her. Do you have a picture of her? Send it to me now. After receiving the photo of June Shaw from Jake, Alex immediately forwarded it to Arthur Lowe with a request to find her. As long as she was still in Seattle, finding her quickly wouldn't be a problem. Sophia sat up. Jake's interruption had killed any chance of more sleep, but it was probably time to get up anyway. Napping too long would ruin their sleep at night. It's the middle of the day. She should be fine. I think so too. I wonder what happened between them. It sounds serious. Don't tell me Jake couldn't control himself. Definitely not. I can vouch for Jake's character, Alex said, dialing Jake back. He reassured him that people were on it and that he shouldn't worry. She would be found soon. Still, he felt uneasy. He got Jake's address and decided to head over. Sophia, ever his loyal shadow, followed close behind. She would never admit that while part of her didn't want to be separated from her husband, another part wanted to see Jake's pathetic state for herself. A little cruel, maybe. As Alex's best friend, she had paid some attention to Jake's long-standing crush. Outside a run-down apartment complex not far from the city center, Jake sat slumped on the edge of a planter, miserably pounding his own head. The steady autumn rain fell on him, soaking him to the bone. He was the picture of dejection. Sophia's words were not kind. You can smash your head in, and she still won't magically appear in front of you. Jake looked up and saw Alex. His eyes turned even redder. He launched himself at Alex, wrapping him in a desperate hug. Alex, you know what? After all my hard work, she finally accepted my confession yesterday. She agreed to try dating me, he wailed. But now everything's ruined. She blocked me. I don't know where she is, and she'll probably never see me again for the rest of my life. What am I going to do? Sophia was not pleased to see her husband being bear-hugged. Before she could say anything, Jake looked up at her, snot and tears streaming down his face. Sophie, I'm really heartbroken right now. Just let me borrow your husband for a minute. I promise, just a little minute. Even in the depths of despair, Jake hadn't forgotten the terrifyingly possessive nature of his friend's wife. Seeing how sensible and pitiful he was, Sophia just huffed, deciding to be the bigger person and let it slide. Alex's head was spinning from all the crying. Wait, she agreed to date you yesterday and block you today? What on earth did you do to make her so angry? Could Sophia have been right? No, Jake's not that kind of guy. Jake was filled with regret. It's all my fault. I'm never getting involved in other people's business again. Sophia stepped away to take a call. When she returned, she stared at the miserable Jake, who looked like he wanted to run headfirst into a wall, and silently took out her phone. Alex heard a sudden click. He turned to see his wife admiring a photo she had just taken. My husband is so handsome, she muttered to herself. Alex was speechless. Jake was too lost in his own sorrow to notice Sophia's little stunt. And even if he had, he wouldn't have dared to say anything. After admiring her husband's photo, Sophia said impatiently, Stop crying. What kind of man cries like this? We found her. Jake's face lit up. Really? That's great. Where is she? Don't ask where she is right now, Sophia said coolly. She's in a safe place. And don't even think about going to see her. She probably doesn't want to see you right now. Alex added, You need to tell us exactly what happened, step by step. Otherwise, not even a miracle can help you. The story, as it turned out, was a massive misunderstanding. After June had accepted his confession last night, they had planned a date for today. But just as he was about to leave, Jake received an urgent phone call. After weighing his options, he ended up standing June up. Jake was beyond frustrated. Thinking of the person who had caused this whole mess, he gritted his teeth. If I had known, I would have let her die. The her he was referring to was a former high school classmate of his and Alex's, Jenna Miller. The name sounded like it was from another lifetime. It took Alex a moment to even remember who she was. After hearing the full story, both he and Sophia felt like they'd been slapped in the face with a soap opera plot. Apparently, as Jake was about to leave for his date, he received a call from a hysterical woman. The moment he answered, she started screaming at him, calling him a deadbeat. She yelled that if he didn't take responsibility for her, she would kill herself and their unborn child, then come back as a ghost to haunt him every night. Jake was completely baffled. It took him a while to figure out that the caller was his old classmate, Jenna Miller, and that she had meant to call her boyfriend but had misdialed. As it turned out, Jake's number was only one digit off from the jerks. Jenna had sobbed that if the guy wouldn't take responsibility for her and the baby, she was going to jump off the bridge over the ship canal. Her hysterical crying didn't sound like a joke. Jake panicked. Saving a life is a noble act, he thought. He tried to calm her down while rushing out the door. In his haste, He completely forgot that the police were perfectly capable of handling a hysterical Jenna Miller. In his rush, Jake's mind went blank. It was only when he was in the taxi heading to the bridge that he remembered to let June know. Since it was a sudden, bizarre, and urgent situation, he figured he would explain later and just told June something important had come up. Being the understanding person she was, June said it was fine. Jake successfully found Jenna. The problem was Jenna herself. She was emotionally unstable, refusing to go home or provide any family contact information. With no other choice, Jake temporarily brought her to his apartment. Just as he was about to contact their old high school teacher to get Jenna's contact info, she suddenly threw her arms around him, declaring that her baby couldn't grow up without a father and that she didn't mind that he'd only gone to community college. She wanted to be with him. Jake was completely floored. Even the trashiest daytime dramas weren't this ridiculous. You don't mind that I went to community college? Well, I mind that you're pregnant by someone else. What the hell? He was furious. Just as he was about to push her away, the front door opened. That's right. When Jake saw June standing in the doorway, his mind went blank. For words echoed in his head, "My life is over." The sight of him and Jenna locked in an embrace made June freeze. Then, without a word, she turned and ran. It took Jake a considerable effort to push the irrational Jenna away. By the time he scrambled downstairs, there was no sign of June. When he rushed back up to grab his phone and call her, she had already blocked him. He called Cody, who cluelessly told him June had the day off from the boba shop. He called her grandfather, who cheerfully said she had just left a little while ago. He called Simon, who was completely in the dark and hadn't seen his sister. The world spun. Jake made the only correct decision he could think of: call Alex and Sophia for help. "That classmate of yours," Sophia said, baffled. "Is she mentally stable?" Alex's mouth twitched. "Maybe. I don't know her that well. By the way, where is she now?" Jake stomped his foot in frustration. "Who knows where that psycho is now? She's not at my place anymore, that's for sure. If she was, I'd kill her. I'm so angry." Alex said sympathetically, "Don't worry. June is a reasonable person. Just explain everything to her clearly, and a misunderstanding will be resolved. But for now on, stay out of Jenna Miller's business." Jake gritted his teeth. "You better believe it. I never should have listened to her threats and gotten involved. Anyone who used to hang out with Lily Thompson can't be a good person. If she weren't such a gold digger, would she have been scammed by that guy?" He continued to rant, but stopped abruptly when he saw the serious look in Alex's eyes. Oh boy. In his anger, he'd mentioned a name he shouldn't have. He gave Alex an apologetic look and shot a furtive glance at Sophia. As expected, she had noticed. She raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Lily Thompson?" She turned to Alex, a sly smile on her face. "If I remember correctly, she's the girl you used to like, the one you bravely confessed to?" Alex was silent. Jake wanted to dig a hole and bury himself in it. "Sorry, bro. I swear I didn't mean it. She went to prison at 18. 10 years. She'll be 28 when she gets out. Still in her prime," Sophia mused. Jake secretly wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead for Lily Thompson. Being on Sophia's radar was not a good thing for anyone. Lily Thompson's life was effectively over. TSK, she deserved it. Wait, what was he doing gloating over someone else's misfortune? His own situation wasn't much better. Jake's face fell again. He looked pitifully at Sophia. "I want to see June. I think it would be more effective if you brought someone with you to explain." That someone was, of course, Jenna Miller. "I'm so sorry. There was nothing going on between Jake and me. We're innocent. I was just not in my right mind. Please forgive me. And I'm sorry, Jake. I didn't mean to look down on you. I just thought you were so responsible, a million times better than the jerk who played with my feelings. I had a moment of madness and said some crazy things, and I acted inappropriately. I was wrong. Please forgive me." After her tearful confession, Jenna Miller nervously glanced at Alex. "Sigh, it's been 2 years, and Alex has only gotten more handsome. Every part of him was perfect. He was practically a walking pheromone. If only she'd known, she would have made a move back when he was still young and innocent. As they say, it's not about forever, it's about having had it once. Even a brief moment with a man like that would be enough to save her for a lifetime. But then again, even if she had known, she wouldn't have dared. His girlfriend was terrifying. People said the extortion case with Lily Thompson could have gone either way. But in the end, she received the maximum sentence. 10 years. How many 10-year periods does a person get in their life? The thought sent a chill down Jenna's spine. She had thought she was safe as long as she didn't mess with Alex. Turns out, she couldn't mess with Jake either. "Get out." Yes, I'm going right now." Drenched in a cold sweat, Jenna scrambled away. "June, Alex said, "That's the whole story. I can personally guarantee that Jake is not the kind of guy who would cheat or play games." Having said his piece for Jake, Alex thoughtfully led Sophia out, giving Jake and June some time alone. Before they left, Sophia handed an envelope to June, then obediently let Alex lead her away. "What did you give her?" Alex asked curiously. "Guess," Sophia said, playing coy. Alex's first thought was a letter of apology from Jake, but he knew Jake well enough to know he couldn't write something like that. He thought for a moment, and then it hit him. "You gave her that ugly picture of Jake." The photo Sophia had taken of Jake crying on his shoulder. It was definitely not his most flattering moment. But in contrast, Alex, who was also in the picture, looked great. Otherwise, Sophia wouldn't have been cooing over her phone about how handsome her husband was. Sophia, who had been planning to tease him a bit longer, pouted. "Honey, how are you so smart? You ruin all my fun." Alex feigned distress. "I can't help it. It's your fault for having such good taste and picking the smartest man in the world to be your husband." Sophia, who had been planning to tease him a bit longer, pouted. Alex deadpanned. "It's the truth. Can't I say it? But I like it." Under the steady autumn rain, Alex held an umbrella as he and Sophia strolled aimlessly down the street at 2 in the afternoon. People can be fragile. An offhand comment, a careless glance, or even a gloomy, rainy day can bring one's mood down. But the weather didn't affect Alex. That was probably because the girl he loved was right beside him, her sweet scent filling the damp air, wrapping him in a gentle, lingering embrace. From a distance, the sweet aroma of roasted sweet potatoes drifted toward them. On a suddenly cool and dreary autumn day, a warm, fragrant roasted sweet potato was an excellent choice. "2 sweet potatoes, please," Alex said to the vendor. Coming right up, Alex took the soft, piping hot sweet potatoes, their enticing aroma wafting up. He held one under Sophia's nose and teased her. "Are you drooling? Call me husband, and I'll let you have a bite." Sophia put on a cutesy voice. "Husband, husband, husband, husband." She batted her eyelashes as she chanted, a move that was illegally adorable. Completely satisfied, Alex peeled away the roasted skin, blew on the steaming flesh to cool it, and then the two of them shared it, bite for bite, right there on the street. A small smudge of potato stuck to the corner of Sophia's mouth, but she didn't notice. Alex reached out to wipe it away, but then had a better idea. "Why let it go to waste?" he said with a straight face. "Hey, who's that over there?" As expected, Sophia turned to look. In that instant, Alex leaned in and swiftly pecked the corner of her lips, capturing the morsel of sweet potato with his own mouth. Realizing she'd been tricked, Sophia stared at him, speechless. Alex feigned confusion. "Huh, I thought that person looked familiar. I must have been mistaken." Sophia licked her lips, tasting the residual sweetness. "So childish," she huffed. "Why is Simon Shaw here?" Alex remained perfectly still. It was the same trick he had just used. He wasn't going to fall for it. But then again, seeing through her prank so quickly might hurt her feelings. As he hesitated, debating whether to play along to make her happy, Sophia looked over his shoulder and said, "Good afternoon." Alex blinked. He couldn't help it. He turned his head to look. One-upped. Despite being on guard, he had fallen for it anyway. A sudden weight settled on his neck. Sophia leaped onto him, wrapping her arms around his neck and hanging off him like a koala. If they weren't in public, she probably would have wrapped her legs around him too. Her upper body pressed tightly against his. He could feel the familiar softness trembling with her muffled laughter. She buried her face in his neck, giggling. Silly husband still fell for it. A certain young man who had just walked up, getting soaked in the rain, witnessed the entire scene and froze. They looked so in love. It didn't feel right to interrupt. He hesitated, wondering if he should pretend he hadn't seen them and just walk away. But then Alex looked up and saw him. "Simon." Sophia stopped laughing. TSK, she clicked her tongue. "Husband, do you think I'm 3 years old? You don't really think that's going to fool me again, do you?" Alex chuckled. "I'm not trying to fool you. It really is Simon." "You're right," Sophia said childishly. "I'm not falling for that. It's the same trick I just used." Simon didn't understand their exchange, but he smiled and said, "Good afternoon." Sophia was speechless. She turned around, and there he was. The bespectacled, scholarly young man standing right behind them was none other than Simon Shaw. She stared at Alex, questioning reality itself. Alex gave her a doting smile and a playful wink, his expression seeming to say, "See, I really wasn't lying." The tenderness in his eyes was practically melting. Though Simon didn't know the full context, he had a distinct feeling that he shouldn't have been walking this way, and he definitely shouldn't have appeared before them. He could sense that his arrival had interrupted some kind of intimate, playful moment. If only he could predict the future, he would have taken a 10-mile detour to avoid this spot. Everyone in Alex's circle, and by extension, Sophia's, shared certain unspoken understandings. First, when Alex was with his girlfriend, it was best to stay away and not be a third wheel. The two of them didn't deliberately show off, but the natural affection in their interactions could deliver a sudden, overwhelming dose of sweetness that could give a single person unrealistic expectations about love. Second, one had to maintain a proper distance from Alex. No getting too close, even if you were the same gender. Brandon Pierce was the prime example of what not to do. Jake Ramirez, as Alex's childhood friend, was much smarter, keeping a perfectly respectful distance. Though Jake had privately told Simon it wasn't intelligence, it was fear. Simon smiled, greeted them, and prepared to make a quick exit, but Alex stopped him. "Simon, there's something I think I should tell you." Simon replied instantly. "Is it about my sister and Jake?" Alex was surprised. "You already know?" Sophia raised an eyebrow, a sly smile playing on her lips. And Alex knew he'd been an idiot. Simon laughed. "Well, I think I do now." He wasn't blind. He had seen how much effort Jake had been putting in with his sister. From the moment he was reborn, Alex had resolved to make things right for Jake, to do everything in his power to give him a happy life. That included, of course, helping him win over June's family. Her grandfather was a kind and understanding old man, so getting his approval wouldn't be a problem. That just left Simon. But Alex hadn't expected Simon to be so open-minded about his sister dating his friend. "As long as my sister is happy, that's all that matters. I won't interfere. Besides, I know what kind of person Jake is just as well as you do, and his parents are good people too. If my sister and Jake can make it work, that's her good fortune. I'm genuinely happy for her." With those words from Simon, Alex felt his mission was complete. Alex texted Jake. "Did June forgive you?" "Jake, of course she did, hee hee." "Alex, good news. Your brother-in-law approves of you too. Keep it up, you got this." "Jake, what?" "Jake, I was just stressing about how to tell him." "Jake, Alex, thank you so much." A person can be insignificant, bustling through a lifetime without ever making a ripple on the surface of the world. Or they could be powerful, not only changing their own destiny, but also influencing everyone around them, guiding them toward their rightful fates, where good is rewarded and evil is punished. The people Alex cared about were all, in their own ways, moving in a better direction. Not long after Jake and June got together, the indie game Simon had developed was successfully launched. It became the go-to stress reliever for office workers looking for a quick break. With the first substantial earnings of his life, Simon was able to move his grandfather and sister out of their old, run-down apartment and into a bright, spacious 3-bedroom place. Shortly after, the long-planned Nexus Games was officially founded, funded jointly by Alex, Simon, and Jake. On the night of the company's launch, the three friends gathered for a small celebration. Good fortune puts a spring in one's step, and two of the three drank a little too much. The sober one, without a doubt, was Alex. The reason was simple. The other two idiots, afraid of upsetting his notoriously jealous girlfriend, had strictly forbidden him from drinking, shamelessly declaring that they would drink his share for him. As a result, Alex didn't touch a drop all night, while the other two got spectacularly drunk. Simon, normally quiet and reserved, slurred his words. "Jake, I only have one sister. I'm officially entrusting her to you. You better not let her get hurt, or I will. I will never forgive you." Jake's eyes were glassy, and he was in no better shape. "Hey, who are you calling Jake? Have some respect. Call me brother-in-law." "No, wait, that sounds too formal. Call me bro. You've been waiting for this day for a long time, haven't you?" "Yeah, how do you know?" Alex looked at the carnage on the table and shook his head with a helpless smile. He called the waiter to pay the bill and arranged for cars to take the two drunks home to their respective mothers. With everything settled, he went home to his wife. After making the arrangements, Alex adjusted the collar of his black coat and strode down the hotel steps, his gaze falling on a Rolls-Royce parked by the curb. The night, the city's bustling streets, the dazzling lights, the luxurious car. The familiar scene made him pause. His mind flashed back to his past life. He had just closed a huge deal, and the company was throwing a celebratory dinner for him. His boss, who thought highly of him, had lavished him with praise and offered to introduce him to his treasured niece. After the dinner, he had left the club with a strange sense of unease, a feeling that something was about to happen. And then he'd seen a Rolls-Royce by the side of the road, one that looked exactly like the one before him now. Alex steadied himself and walked forward. This was the car he had arrived in tonight. His wife, though she wanted to monopolize his time, had been magnanimous enough to grant him one evening of freedom to celebrate with his friends. He glanced at his watch. A bitter smile touched his lips. It was 10:30, almost the exact same time he had left that dinner in his past life. For many, this was when the night truly began. But in Alex's routine, by 10:30 he would have already showered and be lying in bed, cuddling with a freshly showered Sophia. He wondered what she was doing right now. She should be done with her shower. Perhaps she was clumsily blow-drying her hair. She was never sure people to wait on her, but before they were together, she had always done small things like that herself. She had once complained that he was spoiling her so much she was becoming helpless, but he couldn't help it. He loved spoiling her. Or maybe she was curled up in the beanbag chair by the floor-to-ceiling window, wearing a comfortable and cute lace-trimmed nightdress, her porcelain-skinned legs tucked beneath her, her naturally curly hair scattered loosely over her shoulders. An expression of lazy longing on her face as she watched the street below, waiting for the Rolls-Royce carrying him to appear. Of course, there was one last possibility. She was sound asleep in bed. If the first and second possibilities had a 50 and 49% chance respectively, the chance of her being asleep was a mere 1%. He was confident that without him there to hold her, his wife couldn't fall asleep. The thought made him quicken his pace, eager to get home. He strode to the car door and reached for the handle, just as the window slowly rolled down. Alex was caught off guard, his eyes meeting a pair of beautiful, familiar ones. The girl in the car tilted her head and gave him a faint smile. Alex froze. His heart seized, a sharp, sudden pain that left him breathless and covered in a cold sweat. Long time no see, Alex. Are you that unhappy to see me? Just give me 3 more days. After 3 days, I'll set you free. I promise. Husband, are you that unhappy to see me? Seeing Alex frozen in place, Sophia pouted. No, Alex said, shaking off the remnants of his past life. He looked at the vibrant, beautiful girl before him and smiled warmly, reaching out to ruffle her hair. I thought you would be asleep. Seeing you here is a surprise. It's cold out. What are you doing here? I came to pick up my dear husband, who's been working so hard for our family, Sophia said, her voice bright and cheerful. Alex laughed, opened the door, and slid inside. The warmth of the car and Sophia's loving smile immediately dispelled the chill in his body and soul. The past was gone. He would hold onto the happiness of this life with everything he had. He pulled Sophia into his arms. I'm not going to run off and mess around, he said, half complaining, half delighted. Do you really need to keep such a close eye on me? She was still wearing her clothes from the day, which meant she hadn't showered yet. He had considered 3 possibilities, but he hadn't thought of the 4th. Given how well he knew her, he really should have. The car moved forward smoothly, the glittering city lights blurring behind them. Sophia sniffed his shirt and wrinkled her nose. You smell like alcohol. How much did you drink? Alex held up a hand. I swear, I didn't have a single drop. Sophia nodded, satisfied. Good boy. I have some good news. Do you want to hear it? What is it? Cody's getting married. They set the date for just before the holidays at the end of the year. Alex was stunned. For real. Cody loved to be unpredictable. He had been that way with his last engagement, and now with his wedding. But wait, when did he even get a girlfriend? He hoped this time wasn't. Don't worry. This time, Cody has really found his happiness. Husband, do you want to shower first? Okay, you go ahead. Like a wolf, Alex caught Sophia as she tried to slip out of the bathroom. He trapped her in his arms, a wicked grin on his face. What do you mean? You first or me first? This tub is huge. We can shower together and save water. Sophia's cheeks flushed. She shot him a sideways glance. Are you sure this is about saving water? Of course, Alex said righteously. Conserving water is everyone's responsibility. With that, he scooped up Sophia, who weighed barely more than a cat, and strode toward the steaming, waiting bathtub. Help me. As Alex and Sophia were approaching his parents' villa, a hysterical scream pierced the air. A figure shot out of the house. Before their astonished eyes, Brandon Pierce sprinted toward them, yelling in a panic. Alex! Sophie! Pudge has lost his mind. He's gone crazy. Alex looked at Sophia. She put on an innocent face. Husband, I swear I didn't do anything. Alex chuckled. She had been with him the whole time. How could she have sicked the dog on anyone? Besides, Brandon was always on his best behavior around her. She had no reason to let the dog after him. The real reason was hilariously simple. Brandon had been walking Pudge when the dog spotted a pretty little white poodle. Pudge had instantly transformed into a fawning lapdog, shamelessly following the poodle around, completely embarrassing the son of one of the richest men in the country. In a fit of anger, Brandon had suggested to Michael and Emily that they get Pudge neutered. Pudge, who apparently understood perfectly, was not having it. He flew into a rage and started chasing Brandon around the yard. It was only Sophia's intervention that saved the precious heir from getting his butt bitten. Furious, Brandon called Pudge an ungrateful traitor and swore he would never bring him imported pet treats again. He had made the same vow at least 10 times before, yet on his next visit, he would inevitably show up with another large box of goodies. As he put it, how could he really hold a grudge against a little animal? Sophia was puzzled. Husband, can Pudge really understand human language? Alex considered it. Dogs are smart. He probably understands common words. More complex sentences, maybe not. After all, this wasn't a fantasy novel. Maybe Pudge sensed the hostility in Brandon's tone and expression, and that's why he got angry. Alex guessed. He'd never been a dog, so he couldn't be sure. Brandon, taking advantage of the dog's distraction, snuck in a kick to Pudge's chubby rear before jogging over to them. Alex, I want to be a groomsman for Cody's wedding. Alex said, telling me won't do any good. You have to get your dad's permission first. We'll even let you be in the public. I like that. The old man has no objections. Don't call your dad the old man. Show some respect. Oh, right. Got it, Alex. I'll take care of getting you in as a groomsman. Awesome. So, when are you and Sophie getting married? I'll be your groomsman too. Sophia's expression darkened. Pudge, she called out to her loyal canine soldier. A shiver went down Brandon's spine, and he bolted, but he felt incredibly wronged. Was it so wrong to want to be their groomsman? Human desire is a bottomless pit, never to be filled. Before she found Alex, Sophia had been consumed with worry. After she found him, she wanted to possess him completely. Once she had his body and heart, she began to dream of putting on a white wedding dress for him, of becoming his beautiful bride, of being legally bound to him for life. It was the deepest manifestation of her possessiveness. She wanted to be tied to Alex in every conceivable way. Sometimes she really hated that time machines didn't exist. If they did, she would buy one at any cost, just to fast forward to the day she was old enough to walk into the courthouse with Alex and sign the papers. Brandon, who had fled in terror, soon came jogging back. It had been a false alarm. Sophie hadn't actually set the dog on him. He approached them timidly, his shoulders slumped. Sophie, did I say something wrong? Tell me what it was, and I'll be sure to correct it next time. Sophia shot him an exasperated look. Fine, you can be a groomsman. Brandon didn't quite process it. Oh, he said. Emily Turner walked over with a warm smile. Your sister Sophie said that when she and Alex get married, you could be a groomsman. Brandon's eyes lit up. Really? Sophia gave a cool nod. Looking at the boyish, handsome teenager, she added mischievously, but I have one condition. What is it? You have to bring a bridesmaid with you. Brandon grinned. That's easy. Sophie, just tell me how many bridesmaids you need. I can find as many as you want. Sophia shook her head. I only need one from you, but she has to be your girlfriend. Brandon was dumbfounded. Sophia had expected him to blush, but after a moment's surprise, he just grinned. No problem. Time flew by, and soon it was the end of the year. Cody's wedding was a lively, joyous affair. The bride was charming and beautiful, the first employee Cody had hired when he started his boba tea shop. She had been by his side all the way from his humble beginnings to his current success. Many extraordinary people attended the ordinary wedding. The fleet of luxury cars in the hotel's underground garage was proof enough. The most handsome and goofiest grinning groomsman was Brandon Pierce, son of the nation's wealthiest man. Among the guests were Sophia, the undisputed powerhouse of Seattle, and Alex, who was no slouch himself. Beyond what Sophia had given him, his own ventures had already made him a millionaire many times over. And this was just the beginning. Jake Ramirez, a stakeholder in Nexus Games, was on his way to becoming a tech magnate. Simon Shaw, the visionary behind Nexus Games, was a future industry titan. And then there was the second young master of Harlan Corp, Caleb Harlan. That's right, for Alex's cousin's wedding, Caleb had come uninvited on behalf of the Harlan family, bearing a very generous gift. His presence was a clear statement of the Harlan family's high regard for Alex. It should be noted that this respect was no longer entirely due to his relationship with Sophia. As Alex began to show his own sharp intellect and unstoppable drive, he was slowly shedding the perception that he was just living off Sophia. My brother was supposed to come, Caleb said, but he's swamped at the office. It's no problem. Alex, I don't think I ever properly apologized to you, did I? Thinking of the past animosity between them, Alex smiled magnanimously. I seem to remember you did, back then. Caleb looked ashamed. But I didn't mean it then. I'm sorry, Alex. I shouldn't have said those things to you without knowing the full story, just because I was angry. Alex raised a handsome eyebrow and smiled. I can tell that this time. You mean it. Every year, Sophia Reed poured immense thought and effort into celebrating Alex Turner's birthday. But she never celebrated her own. It was because her birth had been an unwelcome event, anticipated by no one. For a long time, before she met Alex, she believed her life was meaningless. As a result, not even Alex, the person closest to her in the world, knew the date she was born. Since Sophia wouldn't celebrate her birthday, Alex designated other days as their special occasions. The anniversary of when they first met, the day they were reunited, the day they officially got together, and the date of their first time. He believed that if you truly cared, you could create romance and surprise her any day of the year. You didn't need a so-called birthday. Winter had arrived again. In the dimly lit, toasty bedroom, the king-size bed was dominated by a large lump under a silk comforter. Her feet, tangled together, poked out from the bottom edge. A pair of small, fair feet were playfully rubbing against a much larger pair. Sophia was lying on Alex's chest, her long hair spilling across his broad, firm torso. The moment she shifted, his arm tightened around her waist, holding her securely. His other hand patted her back a few times. Usually, this was enough to lull her back into a deep, contented sleep in his arms. Today, however, she struggled a little. Thinking she needed the bathroom, a half-asleep Alex loosened his grip. Gritting her teeth against the cold, Sophia left the warmth of his embrace. Her bare feet padded across the soft, beige carpet as she walked to the window and pulled back a corner of the heavy blackout curtain. The brilliant, unexpected white outside made her squint. A second later, her eyes flew wide open. The surprise on her face blossomed into a radiant smile that lit up her features. Thinking about the day's agenda, she practically skipped back to the bed and began shaking the still slumbering Alex. "Alex, honey, wake up. Get up." Sophia always babied Alex. Unless he woke up on his own, she would never dream of disturbing him. Judging by his internal clock and the grogginess in his head, Alex figured it couldn't be later than 6 in the morning. He blearily opened his eyes to see Sophia beaming with excitement. "Honey, you have to come see this." Alex threw back the comforter. The heat was cranked up so high that it was comfortable even with barely anything on. Feeling like he was in a daze, he let the excited girl lead him to the window. He was still trying to figure out what was going on when he reached for the curtain, but Sophia stopped him. "Close your eyes," she instructed. He obediently shut them. Sophia pulled the curtains wide open. Okay. The moment Alex opened his eyes, he was stunned by the snow-covered landscape. It's snowing. Yes, it snowed. The unexpected storm was the biggest Seattle had seen in years. A thick blanket of white covered everything, transforming the entire world into a pure, pristine canvas. All traces of sleep vanished from Alex's mind. He wrapped his arms around Sophia's neck and kissed her forehead. "I'll build a snowman with you later." Snow is nature's most primitive toy. Behaving like a couple of kids, the two of them, barely in their 20s, threw on thick, insulated parkas and eagerly charged downstairs. Just as they were about to head out, Sophia grabbed his arm. "Your scarf." "You're not wearing a scarf." Alex waved it off, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward the door. "It's fine. Your husband is built tough. A little cold air isn't going to take me down." Sophia's tone was dry. "I seem to recall someone once bragging that a little virus couldn't take him down." The very next day, he was sick in bed. Alex pretended he didn't hear her. "Honey, I'm just going to check the kitchen for a carrot. For the snowman's nose." He dashed into the kitchen. Sophia shook her head, a fond smile on her lips. She quietly touched a spot on her chest. Her wardrobe usually consisted of blacks, whites, and grays, but today she was wearing a rare, long, bright red parka. The color made her skin look even more delicate and her features more stunning. The coat had an inside pocket. Tucked within it was a small, hard booklet. It pressed against her body, but she didn't find it uncomfortable in the slightest. Alex emerged from the kitchen with a large carrot he'd scavenged. When Mrs. Helen, Charles, and the others learned he was taking Miss Sophia to build a snowman, they happily provided buttons, a hat, and a scarf for the cause. After 2 hours of work, a snowman with a portly, round belly was finally complete. Alex was so warm he had unzipped his parka, revealing the white sweater underneath. He pressed 2 black buttons into the head for eyes, then handed a clean carrot to Sophia. "Here you go, honey. You can do the nose." Sophia carefully pushed the carrot into place, then set the hat on the snowman's head and wrapped the scarf around its neck. A jaunty, spirited little fat man had come to life. Alex put his arm around Sophia, held his phone high, and snapped a selfie with their creation. After the click of the camera, he said completely out of the blue, "This snowman will get to die of old age." Sophia looked at him, confused. She had also gotten warm while they were working and had taken her scarf off. Alex picked it up and began wrapping it back around her neck as he reminisced. When I was in elementary school, we had a snowstorm just like this one. Jake and I built a huge snowman in the neighborhood, about this big. We were so proud of ourselves. He sighed. The next day, we ran out to see it, and some jerk had kicked its head off and pissed all over its body. We were so mad. Sophia gave him a sympathetic look. She glanced down at her watch. Alex had noticed her frequently checking the time while they were building the snowman. After breakfast, as they got into the car, he still had no idea what she had planned. But it didn't matter. She wanted him with her, and he would go wherever she led. It wasn't until they arrived at City Hall. As Alex stood there, completely dumbfounded, Sophia smiled brightly and pulled 2 sets of birth certificates and IDs from the inner pocket of her parka. It hit him all at once. Today was her birthday. The very day she met the legal requirement to get married. She had eagerly brought him here to do just that. At the same time, he understood why she'd chosen to wear such a rare, bright red coat. For her, today was a day of celebration. They went through the process, and soon they were holding the small, official certificate in its burgundy folder. Sophia held it like a precious treasure, examining it over and over. She carefully tucked both her copy and Alex's back into the inner pocket of her parka. Alex laughed. Isn't that uncomfortable? Here, let me hold them. No, they're staying with me. I'm afraid you'll lose them. Sophia's eyes were sparkling with joy. On to the next stop. And where's that? The Social Security office. What for? Honey, don't you want my name officially linked with yours? Well, too bad if you don't, she declared, her voice full of happy determination. Because for this life and the next and every life after that, you're mine. Having the certificate, officially binding their lives together. It was something Sophia had dreamed of for a very long time. And today, that day had finally come. A note from the author. Dear readers, this marks the end of the story. Thank you all so much for your love, your wonderful comments, and your support. While this book wasn't incredibly long, without you, it would have been over much sooner. I wish you all the best in everything you do. May your path always be smooth and your days be filled with joy. Wavy Dash.